our colleagues on leave. Okay.
She got something else.
Okay. All right. So anyway, I think before we start, can we have those online to switch on your videos? Can you just switch on your camera for those online? Just so that our colleagues over here, yes. Hi, Ling. Hi, Jay. Hi, Valen.
Hi.
Hi, Wendy. Morning. Hi, Satya. Azim. Karen and Chua, Simping, is it? Are we? Okay. I think it's good for us to also, if possible, to okay, sorry, the line is a little bit, okay. If you can keep your videos on and whatnot, because what happens is some of our colleagues do this session virtually, and it will allow them to put a face to that name. Sometimes it's quite difficult, like when we are from different campuses, we will not know maybe who, Valen I know lah, Valen sudah banyak tahun ke sini, but maybe like let's say Wendy, I have not met her in a way. So Wendy, which department are you from?
Languages.
Languages, all right. So you are English teacher. You do teach English. Good, thank you very much. And then I have Chua Sing. Is it Mr. or Miss Chua? I cannot see the full name over there. Okay. Maravi. Hi, Maravi. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
How are you?
Yeah, good.
Good. Maravi, it will be fine if you switch on your camera just for a short while.
Hold on, yeah.
Okay. Hi. So, which department are you from, Maravi?
Nursing.
Sorry?
Nursing.
Nursing, yes. So you are just, you're nursing Penang or nursing UG?
Penang.
Oh, nursing Penang. So when are you coming over to UG here to see your new colleagues?
My boss is there.
Oh, she's here today. Oh yes. I think she should be around here. That's good. So when will you all be coming? It's important also for you all to come, not only your boss, right?
Maybe one day we can plan for that.
Maybe one day. let's do it soon, because at the end of the day we are one institution. Okay. Hi, Siping.
Hi.
Hi, Miss Chua. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, I believe you switch on your camera. However, we don't see anything.
I already switched on.
Yeah. Do you have a cover on your lens?
Say again?
I believe your lens is covered. Yes, you are in. I can see some visuals. However, it's pretty blurred, and I believe that doesn't look like you. Hi, Miss Chua. So you are from Penang too, I believe.
I'm not sure. I have actually switched on the camera already.
Oh, okay.
What do you see actually?
We saw a very blurred picture. Hi, Karen. We saw a very blurred picture earlier on. Anyway,
A blurred picture, is it?
Yes. So the reason why, I mean, first of all, thank you very much for switching on your cameras. Thank you very much, and a very good morning. Okay. What I want to stress here in relation to switching on cameras is the context when we're looking into OBE also on outcome-based education. How students actually learn. See how our students learn. Students use the senses. Okay, senses. So as you know, how many senses do we have? How many do we have? How many senses do we have? We as humans, normal people, normal. 5, yes, 5 senses. If some of you say 6 means you can see them. So we have 5 senses. So what are our senses over there? We have sight, hearing, space, taste, touch. Okay, so basically what happens is the more senses we use, the higher level of absorption the audience will be able to attain. So in outcome based, what is the outcome? Is you want the audience to absorb and to learn. So let's try to use as many senses as possible. That is why switching on the camera or having visuals is actually a very big important aspect in the learning context. Okay? So today's journey is going to be a pretty, I would say, a direct relation to what we did in our previous session. Today, what we are going to look at is going to be on assessment planning, the rubric, and diversity in the classroom. Okay. So these are key aspects over here that we are going to cover. Assessment, as you know, there are many different kinds of assessments that we're going to go through, which will relate to the feedback. The rubric is also an important aspect. How do we ensure we develop a correct rubric? A rubric is a tool to ensure fairness in marking of the student. And of course, I will then stress a little bit about the uniqueness of our classroom diversity. Diversity in the classroom means in the class, when you have 30 students or 40 students, you have 30 or 40 different characters, very unique characters that are different, that will learn differently, that have different methods of learning, that have different challenges. One student may have problems at home. Another student may have not enough food to eat. Another student may have just broke off with their partner, and so on. So the classroom is very diverse. However, they are all going to the same goal. And what is that goal? Academic excellence. So we are aiming to a same goal, but because the classroom is so diverse, you as the captain, you need to steer the ship to ensure it reaches that goal. It's not easy. Alright, it's not easy. So I'm going to touch a little bit about diversity. However, I put a caveat over here. I'm not in a way official certified counselor. So there are certain things I will not talk about. Okay, and I will just list it down, but I will not elaborate too much due to my inability to go into detail on certain aspects. Okay, so of course, I'm glad you are here. Today is the 10th of June, 2022. We always look forward to public holidays. We just had one, and the next one will be next month. Just keep your in ada. Next month ada satu lagi. See, our is very good. Huh? Motivate, yeah. Yes, motivate, outcome based. So we always motivate our colleagues based on that. Alright, next month one more holiday. Now, recap. So those of you online, I want you to switch on your sound, your mic. I'm going to do a bit of a recap over here. I'm going to ask you some questions. We're going to ask some questions. So the style of asking questions, let me explain to you, the outcomes based is always question then identify. We don't say Azwa, what is, but we give the question first, then we go into who can answer and we open it up to the floor. Okay, so guys, this is just a little bit of a recap. In your own words, what are the 3 premises of OBE by William Spady? Who can answer this, guys? I want to, since you guys are matured learners, so I want to check how many of you will be able, in your own words, don't worry. Don't need for me to call names lah. Somebody online? Valen? Remember last week's lesson? Yeah. In your own words. No need to refer, don't worry. Tak ada mistake punya. What do you think? Come guys. So let me give a hint. The first one. Okay? All students can succeed, but however, in their own way and in their own time. Betul? So that is his first premise. All students can succeed. So you don't have to worry about, don't not say that only clever students can succeed. Semua boleh, tapi different way and different time. Okay. Number 2, Miss Ling. I call Miss Ling first. She knows this one. Why is having clear PEOs critical? Okay, sorry. In that case, I will go to all 3 first. So that is the first one. All students have succeed. What is the second one? I can't hear you.
Success breeds.
Yes, success breeds success. Success breeds success. Okay, so who will be able, any of you will be able to explain that statement, success breeds success? Come on, somebody.
Reaching the destination, maybe?
Reaching the destination. So if his second premise is success breeds success, reaching the destination, how would you elaborate that?
Like students basically, well, the destination would be like to graduate, for example. So maybe, some would take different time to graduate, but all will eventually reach the destination.
You are correct. Who was that? Stephanie, that is the first premise. Stephanie, what you have explained is the first premise. Every student will be able to succeed in their own time and in their own pace. Correct? The second premise is success breeds success. How would you explain that?
Meaning able, we can let go, like, they're able to be independent, able.
Yes, that is the goal. They are able to be independent. So what we say here is, Azwan,
If we successfully deliver the OBE, then the students will successfully absorb everything.
Absorb everything. Close but not accurate enough. Very good. Basically, success breeds success is when the students achieve goal, they will want to achieve more goal. So you see what I'm trying to say? So what OBE stresses is this. In your lesson, you want to make the whole course into mini lessons and to ensure that students understand that they achieve their independent or individual lessons so that they achieve the whole course. It is like gamification. Alright? Look at the whole subject of course as a whole journey, and it is every small milestone we want to identify that is the success. Okay, so that the students will be motivated. That is what it means by success breeds success. Alright guys, so we as teachers or facilitators, we need to understand this. So what we do in our class is we want to motivate students every lesson. So well done, good. So they will be happy and they will look forward to the next lesson. So they know they succeed, then they want to look forward to the next one. This is success breeds success. Alright guys, Ken? Now, and the third premise, what is the third premise? What is the third premise?
To control the condition of success.
Yes, the third one, good, is the institution controls the condition for success. We have a big responsibility to play, all right? We have a big responsibility over there. That means we are responsible for students' success. What we do, the way we deliver, and so on. So those are the three premises of OBE that we covered. Very good, this is the basis. Now, the second one is, why is having clear PEOs critical in OBE achievement? Now, we discussed about PEOs, and we also say that it is critical. We must have clear PEOs. Can I have Ms. Ling to answer this?
A clear PEO then can design for a group OBE lah.
Yeah, so why is this, you got very close, you are very close. Why must we have clear PEOs? Why is clear PEOs critical in OBE achievement?
Then the PEO is the overall of the program achievement.
Very good.
Yeah. Then from there, then we are actually can come up with the what suppose that we achieve on the objective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. Now, what she said is correct. In summary, PEOs are the overwhelming or the covering aspects of what the students must achieve. Remember, it's called program educational objective. So PEOs must be clear because PEO will drive PLO, that will drive CLO. Okay, that is why if your PEOs are not clear, then your PLO and your CLO will not be clear. Okay, so that is why it is critical when you talk about OBE achievement. What do you want students to achieve? What you want students to achieve is this, the PEOs. At the end, when they graduate, this is what they must get. Well done, good. Okay. Now, next question. When developing a course, what do we set first? Credit value or CLOs, and why? When you are developing a course, you come up with a new subject you want to develop, do you set credit value of the course first or do you set CLOs first? And why? Which one?
CLOs.
CLOs, very good. CLOs first. Always set CLOs first. Okay, not credit value. So let's say you're coming up with a marketing course. Your boss asks you to do marketing. Don't think in your mind, this is going to be 3 credits. Don't think it's going to be 4 credits. You must think what the students are supposed to learn. So it's always CLOs first. Then you drive credit value. Okay, now this is just an open question. 1 credit in current situation, current MQA's aspect, is equivalent to how many notional hours? Notional hours. Berapa jam notional hours?
Notional hours.
1 credit persamaan, how many notional hours? Notional hours are the amount of hours required to achieve that 1 credit. It can be face-to-face, it can be self-learning. Berapa? Siapa cakap itu?
40.
Who answer? Who's that?
Ling.
Correct. 40, betul. 1 star. 40. 1 credit equivalents to 40 notional hours. So, notional hours is anything that required to achieve that 1 credit. It could be face-to-face lesson, it could be self-learning, it could be test, it could be anything. This is important. 1 credit is 40 notional hours. That is why when you're developing a course, you look into CLOs first. Then if the CLOs say that it is everything 132 hours. Berapa kredit? 132. Berapa kredit sini?
Divided by 40.
Berapa? Betul, 3. It's 132 divided by 40. 3. You get a 3 here. 120. Bring down 12. So this one is 3.3. If it is 3.3, it is 3. We got no such thing as 3.5 credit. Betul kan? Faham kan? Now, I ask you one more question. Let's say your notional hours is 159. 159 hours. Berapa kredit?
4.
Hah?
4.
Siapa cakap tu? Siapa tu?
Stephanie?
Not 4. 4? No.
No.
It is still 3.
Oh dear.
There is no rounding up for notional hours. 159 is 3.9 credits, betul? So, if it's 3.9, we only take this figure. It is 3. So, always remember, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, when you are developing your course, jangan bagi 159. Find to make sure it is 160 lah. 160 divided by 4 equals, divided by 40 equals 4 credit. Boleh? Boleh. Next, in the context of the Bloom's taxonomy, is it possible to achieve a higher learning before attaining prerequisite and skill at a lower level? Boleh ke tak?
Achieve higher than become
Can you achieve Bloom level 5 and 6 sebelum you achieve 1 and 2?
No.
Betul, very important. OBE stresses that there must be a certain taxonomy, you use Bloom's, and you cannot achieve 5 and 6 before you achieve 1 and 2. So at lower level, it is knowledge, then it is application and its creation synthesis. You cannot create something if you got no knowledge. Okay, this is very important. You know why? I give you an example. I have that exam paper, I have seen exam paper, diploma level, degree year 1, but it is set by lecturers who are very high level of qualification. They set high application questions or synthesis questions for even diploma students. It's not wrong, but it should be a small percentage. You cannot say 80% of the questions because diploma level students' requirement is mainly knowledge and application. You get what I'm trying to say, huh? So in OBE, outcomes-based education, we need to make sure the outcomes are clear. Diploma outcome is different from degree outcome, different from master's outcome, different from PhD's outcome. Okay? Because the outcomes are different, assessment level also different. Faham tak, guys?
Faham.
Very good. So that is our recap. These are certain key aspects. Okay. So for today's session, good morning, Madir. We did a recap, revision skip tadi. Pass, semua pass with flying colors. OBE achieve outcome. So, and if it's achieved, it is success breeds success. So since you all know the basic theory, today's lesson will be very straightforward to you. Very good. Okay. So in today's session, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about assessment. Then we're going to talk about the assessment rubric and diversity in the classroom. I think the first thing we need to look at is the assessment concept. Assessment concept. So, simple question to all of you. What is assessment? Apa itu assessment? Assessment lah. Kenapa kena buat?
Assessor, we set the question.
Yes, we set the question. Yeah, betul. We set the question. There is many ways of assessment. Observation is also assessment. You observe people's behaviors is assessment. So, what is the purpose for assessment?
Evaluation?
Okay. I see one keyword over here. Aswa says correct. Is check. 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 I hear online somebody say evaluate. Correct. You are going on the right track. Check. Evaluate tadi apa?
Test?
Test. Test is the process. Is the process of assessment. Correct. And what else? Something very important. You do assessment to do what? To you cannot answer that. Right. Assess lah. Betul lah. OBE, one thing, remember first lesson, we had bukti. Remember OBE, we say we must have evidence of students' achievement. OBE, one important thing is evidence of students' achievement. So for you to get evidence of students' achievement, whether they achieve or not, there must be a method or a process that is fair for all. So that is why we do assessment. Assessment can break down into many different types. Later we are going to go into. So it is basically checking, it is basically some use evaluation and so on. Yes, those are the processes. But because under the context of OBE, we do assessment because we need evidence. If we say my student is a good student in base 3 class, I will ask you, what is the bukti that he is good? There must be something that you did to ensure that the student is good in base 3. That is called assessment. Okay, that assessment can come in many different forms. It can be a presentation, it can be a written report, it can be a practical class, and so on. But these are all assessment methods. Final exam is an assessment method. Presentation, observation is an assessment method also. Now, the main aspect that we are looking into the assessment concept here, ladies and gentlemen, is what assessment will be most suitable for my course? What assessment will be most suitable for my course? As what we discussed last week, PT3 has now been removed. And the first sit-down formal assessment that students will take will now be in SPM. During our time, my time, not our Mr. tapi saya, we used to have penilaian, which is standard 5. Then we used to have SRP, which is form 3. Then we used to have SPM, very much written assessments, written government assessments. But what has changed? Today, we see the only one that is formal is going to be SPM. The rest will be classroom-based assessment. Can any of you tell me why government is heading towards that way? Answering using OBE principles or OBE understanding. Why is government heading towards that path? Aku sudah tukar during my time. When I studied, I started in 1982, standard 1. Aku sudah tukar, aku sudah beza. 1982, man. What has changed, guys?
Learning outcomes.
Yes, outcome is OBE. PEO lah. The PEO has changed. During my time, PEO has changed. Now the young people, their future is different. So the PEO has changed. The government sees that the program education objective has changed. The future has changed. And because the future has changed, the PLO, the CLO, or what the government does, the standards have also changed. And because of that, assessment also changed. So what the government is doing is a big picture. They are doing it on a national level, but the principles are the same. The principles are the same. If they don't change, the students will not be assessed properly. And when they are not assessed properly, they will focus on things that are not important. Exams are not important, but in certain contexts. Certain things you see in exams, but a lot of things are now evolving. So this is why we need to understand that the assessment concept is a critical element to ensure we get the right booking of our students' evidence. Okay? So assessment methods are strategies, techniques, tools, and instruments for collecting information. See, it's collecting information to determine the extent to which students demonstrate desired learning outcome. You use assessment methods to collect information, and then what information you have to collect? You collect to prove that students demonstrate desired outcome. This is what an assessment does. Okay, now, several methods should be used to assess students' learning outcome. Because students today, if you remember the 5 clusters, cannot run away, the 5 clusters, which are the 11 sub-clusters, is so varied, not only cognitive, but practical and also affective skills. That is why, because there is these 5 clusters and everything is so varied, we cannot use one method of assessment. Okay, that's why we must use numerous methods of assessment. Cognitive assessment, knowledge and cognitive, exam, no problem. Communication skill, exam, maybe not the best. You need to use something else. Ethics, exam doesn't work. Observation, if you are assessing ethics, it could be observation, the person's actual behavior. Alright? She said, I'm a very ethical person, but when you see these students' behavior in group work, it proves otherwise. So this is through observation. So if you are just looking as simple as cognitive skills, practical skills, and ethics, you already need 3 types of assessment. You cannot use one type. That is why. So assessment methods should be used several assessment methods, not one, due to the fact of the 5 clusters. And I want to be a broken record, like a parrot. 5 clusters come from where? M, Q, F. Okay? Official document lah, government punya, bukan buat sendiri. Okay? So that is why it's important. Understand? This is the premise of why assessment is necessary. Now, many a times, as facilitators and lecturers, we fall back to upper yang kita familiar, we are familiar with. And the easiest way to do assessment is actually exam. Exam, you set the paper, then you just give one time, everybody do. Okay, now it could be easy to set, however, you need to understand whether is it the best way. Presentations, you may think, oh, your subject got no exam, you senang lah. No, evaluating presentations is very difficult because you need to be very, very knowledgeable of what to observe in that presentation and what is important to have good assessment over it. Alright, that is why presentations, it doesn't mean a subject, no final exam, it is easy. No, it is not. It is not. Okay, that we must understand as educators, we mustn't put into the kurungan under the bottle that exam means you are higher level subject. No, exam means you are lower level subject. No, it doesn't, it cannot be like that. It depends on what you want to assess. It depends on what you want to assess. Assessment drives students' learning and directly influences students' approach to study. This is research done, very important. If a student join your program and they find out that everything is exam, every exam, they won't want to speak to their friend. They don't need to speak to their friend. They work everything in silo. I study on my own and do everything on my own. I don't need to do group work because no marks. All my marks is exam, 100% exam. And you look, if it's that kind, and the student finish your diploma, and they just work on their own because the assessment is exam, will they have met the PEO? No, exactly. So, assessment drives students' learning. What assessment you do? When you start your course, day one, you already give your student the assessment brief right now. Student, tengok 40% is group presentation, group report and presentation. You are already telling the students, the LO, group work very important. If you are a person that don't like to talk to people, you need to break that barrier. You need to go and talk to people. You need to work with people. Some of our students cannot work with people right now. They don't like to work with people, they like to work alone. But now they know 40% is group work. So now they got no choice but to work with people. See? And why are they doing that? Not because they like to do it, it's because 40 marks is group presentation and work. That is why assessment drives students' learning. It directly influences students' approach to study. That is their approach. That is why they need to do it. Okay. Look at the general careers. If you look at the different disciplines, hospitality school, I dare speak of due to my experience over there. We have a lot of group work, right? We have a lot of group assignments. We have a lot of team aspects. Why? When you are working in a hotel, you cannot work alone. You need to work with people. You need to work with different individuals. You need to work with different departments. You need to get your message through. Emergency. Gas sudah mati kat dalam bilik. If you do not to communicate, how are you going to get people to come and do? This is fact. When I was working in a hotel, I'm a front office person. Under my shift, I remember one guest passed away. How do we organize it? Yes, these things happen. So you need to understand. So this is very important. Some of you may say, hey, macam ini, if I do ACCA, I'm an accountant, I don't need to work with people lah. You are wrong. We are TLC. We are required, we are being hired by ACCA and PAC to do soft skills training to ACCA students. Why? Because ACCA students now require soft skills. Change. The market has changed. Why market has changed? Accountant also need to see client. Dulu accountant don't need to see client. Duduk behind the desk. Now they need to see client. And if you are no good to your client, what will your client do? Change accountant lah. Tak boleh kan PB lah. So accountants are also marketing people. So even though you study ACCA, you need to know interpersonal skills. You need to know communication skills. Changing market. So even how we assess them, what is in their course, also changes. Alright? So, always remember, you cannot run away. I must repeat this one. These are the 5 clusters. So, if we look at assessment, different kinds of assessment methods will deem different based on what is expected from it. Okay, so very clear already. MQF already state students must achieve. Because of this, assessment pun lain lah. You cannot use one kind of assessment. Okay, now when we look into the relationship between assessment and the whole other aspects, this comes in. When you have your program, your course, your PLO will drive your CLO, normal lah, okay? Then you need to understand that how do we achieve this CLO? How do we achieve CLO? There are two parts to achieve CLO. Two. One is the instruction, the teaching. And the next one is the assessment. The teaching and the assessment. This is called instruction. The instruction, the way they teach. Then you need to work hand in hand with the assessment method. And these two will then impact the CLO achievement. Okay, so we always start, okay, your teaching, make sure you teach well in class, you deliver well. No, but it's only one part. Because this one is very important. If this one is not done properly, you cannot assess betul whether CLO achieved or not. That is why when you look at assessment, you heard of this thing called moderation. Apa tu moderation?
Whichever doesn't meet the CLO.
Yeah, so you check lah. So you moderate my paper, I moderate the paper, she moderate my assignment. Why do we need moderation? Why can we not let one lecturer command everything for their own subject and course? Why not? Biasness, betul. And we do moderation not only after the assessment is handed in, betul. We do something else before. What do we do? And moderate the question. And from now, you all know, not only final exam kena moderate now, assessment pun kena moderate now. Anything more than 30% must moderate. Why? Now, don't forget guys, please read the handbook. Even assessment kena moderate because a lot of courses and subject is now 100% assessment. Okay, so we also need to make sure that it is moderated properly. It is done properly. Okay. So that is why assessment, instruction, drive. Okay, all right. This is very important. So some of you may ask me, okay, practical bagaimana nak moderate? Practical, let's take phase 3. Bagaimana nak moderate? Itu cikgu yang mengajar. Yes, must moderate. I give you an example. Let's say we are hot cooking. Kita buat hot cooking, masak-masak hot cooking. Diploma level, learn. Tapi assessment, final exam, fry and egg. 20 marks. Okay, hot cooking, Western cooking, local cooking, but the exam is fry and egg, 20 marks. You as a moderator, what brings in your mind? You moderate as a question. Fry and egg, 20 marks.
What's it to do with that?
No, it has to do with hot cooking, betul. It's cooking, but it's just fry and egg.
But it's different,
Sorry?
Totally different,
No, if in hot cooking, they got cooking, so frying and egg is also cooking a dish, It's also cooking. Okay? It's still cooking. However, if you look into the depth that is required, do you think it's justified?
No.
No. Why? Why do you think it's not justified? Will you say that this assessment for a final exam diploma culinary student, hot cooking, is too easy?
Yeah, too easy.
It's too easy. This is fundamental. Is daily or weekly assessment. You got eggs, you got potatoes, and so on. But for final exam, 20 marks out of 40, one discuss Friday.
Way too easy, way too easy.
Exactly. The word easy is based on our understanding. That means this assessment does not meet the L.
Learning outcomes, yeah.
Yes. I'm just using hot cooking because I got some understanding of it. But this is what it is. So when you talk about practical, you need to moderate. Practical must moderate. You need to see the question, what the lecturer is doing. Chef Fahmi, betul ke macam ni? Because the student, this is their learning outcome. Tapi you tanya, suruh dia buat itu saja. Is it really the evidence? Because this one is the evidence of this achievement. So if student can fry an egg well, and let's say and pass, is it evidence that the CLO is achieved for hot cooking? No, unless the subject is called egg frying 001. Egg frying, only goreng telur. And maybe. But
Okay.
hot cooking, no. That is one question I do get asked from a lot of my colleagues. Okay, when we moderate practical, how do we moderate? Exam senang, exam tengok paper, but practical there's a chef or the so and so say they do this. How do I moderate? You need to moderate based on learning outcome. Whatever that is asked there in the practical class, you need to moderate based on learning outcome, because this will be the evidence to show that they achieve. Okay, that is the importance of the assessment. Okay. So, before I go, some like to say, macam ini kita buat assessment susah lah. We make high level to prove that our students pandai. Wrong. Your students supposed to achieve tahap ketiga, level 3. You make exam assessment level 5, and all the students just pass. Is no good. You are not demonstrating on that. Is not evidence on the CLO achievement. Okay, you must always base it on the CLO. Alright. Assessment of student and the structure of the guidelines over here. You look at the arrows. What we want to achieve is this program learning outcome and the end of the student graduate attributes. So assessment of student is driven by the CLO, is driven by alignment of assessment with the learning outcome, assessment dengan learning outcome, methods of assessment. Guys, methods of assessment beratus-ratusan. We do, if I ask you, how many methods of assessment? You will say written exam, practical, presentation, but there are so many, there are so many. There's even using technology, there are different kinds of assessment, there is case studies, research, and so on. So, under methods of assessment here is what method do we use to achieve this? Many of us, we use the method that we are familiar. It's the easiest sebab we have been using it for a long time, but it may not be the best. And management of assessment system. Management. Now, what is management of assessment system, guys? Take note. For here in our campus, if it is a final exam, we have a very stringent management of assessment. What is it? Who controls it? Very good, Martin. Exam department. This is what? Because assessment is the evidence of CLO achievement. It is very important that you manage the assessment properly. You must manage it properly. Okay? If your management of assessment is not correct, whatever students achieve in the assessment is not valid. Not valid. Let's say, exam paper, we are doing final exam. Management tak baik, student already come in, I already give the paper, then I need to go toilet, I'm the only invigilator, I go out. Nobody inside, student, the exam paper, now student, I trust you, don't open. Okay. Is it good management or bad management? Bad. After that, I do not know what the students do. Everybody get distinction. All students have distinction. Is that distinction evidence, bukti of CLO achievement? No. Why? Management tak baik. Now, here as an institution, at final exam, our management is memang baik. We got exam department. Key and again, very straight. Check. And you guys go and be invigilator. My question now is assessment only final exam? No. Your presentation, your practical exam, your students' event. Is there good management in the assessment system? How many of you can really tell me your presentation that you do, 40 marks ke 30 marks, is persamaan dengan final exam marks, that your control is the same as a final exam. That is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so basically, if you look at our guide today, final assessment, let's say it is a presentation. Aswa cannot do it alone. She cannot do it alone. The regulation is she must do with a moderator. Most of your schools do. I understand. But sometimes emergency. So and so MC already. Tak apalah, saya buat presentation, saya buat sendiri lah. Tak boleh. Because there must be check and balance to ensure achievement is equivalent to the syllabus. That is what it means by a stringent assessment process. It must be same as an exam, technically. There must be check and balance. Okay? Question? Because evidence. Practical class, I know. I see in the chat, in the kitchen, ada 3 sampai 3. 1 lecturer and 2 second markers inside. This is called check and balance. But sometimes when we do our own presentation, class presentation, this, that, and so on, midterm exam, do we do enough management of the assessment system? Are we doing it correctly? Because if we don't do it correctly, apa akan jadi is that when you do assessment, it is not valid. Once it is not valid and your student, everybody get A, that A got no value. We do not know how they got that A. Okay? Question stands? Okay, I'll continue. Why is it important to use multiple methods? Why? Relying on only one method to provide information about the program will only reflect a part of the student's achievement. Yalah, you only use one assessment, one part lah. Additionally, CLO may be difficult to assess using only one method. Your CLO that you see, CLO 1, CLO 2, CLO 3, a lot of them is different assessment method. You tak boleh pakai satu. Okay, so that is very clear. For each CLO, a combination of direct and indirect assessment methods should be used. You may want to use different kinds of methods. Okay, you are actually free to use. Why I say you are free? You are the subject expert. You are the subject expert. So far, there is no one staff in our institution that can say master of all. We got the computing one, we got the games, we got the hospitality, and you are the one. That is why we have this thing called panel. The panel to decide. The panel to discuss and to decide. Okay. Relationship between assessment and learning. So now we know the importance of assessment. Assessment method is important for evidencing, alright, to make sure things are in order. Traditional educational practice centers on inputs where the context of the subject is merely delivered. Traditional. So traditional, we are looking at inputs. Alright, where we as cikgu, we deliver the EC. Students are exposed to curriculum at the end of the day, exam is given. At the end of the day, exam given, grades are assigned regardless of whether students have learned or not learned. Now, I want to take a few minutes to stress here. Traditional aspect, I go to class, cikgu mengajar, students pay attention, after that, write an exam. Then, at the end of the semester or the year, kita buat exam, and the exam is, I will get a grade. So, Gabriel dapat B plus. Okay, now, that B plus doesn't prove whether I have learned or not learned. Whether I learned, I could be just good in memory. Okay, now, outcome based is different. OBE, we need to look at the demonstrated part. Demonstrated. Bukti, evidence that they know how to do. Bukti, evidence. Traditional, no. Traditional is very much regurgitation. Traditional. But now we are all to OBE. So because we are going towards we are in the OBE side, we need to ensure that our students are able to demonstrate their knowledge. So in our exam, our assessments, sorry, I use the word assessment method, we need to structure it in the way of demonstration. Demonstration. So you need to put application question. You must put application inside there. You need to make sure that the students use the theory to apply to a particular situation. That is called demonstration. That is where it is. Okay. Understand this, guys? Because this is what the industry want, OBE. To be, we also need to ensure that this is how the students are assessed. Questions, guys? Questions? Understand? Yeah.
No problem.
Now, does it mean we don't reward at all knowledge? No, we can still reward. Tapi sikit, list and explain the marketing mix, for example. List and explain the marketing mix. 10 marks. List, give 2 marks. Explain on the situation, you give the 8 marks. If it is diploma level. If it is degree, year 2, year 3 level, they list, don't give mark. The list is called knowledge that they need to have. They explain, they give the 10 marks. That is how they can. If it is masters and PhD level, even if they explain and they don't create something new with discussion, you will even give no marks. Explain, you are at that level, tahap 7 dan tahap 8. You see, that is how it is. This is the differentiating. Okay. Now, assessments in general serves the purpose to now. So when we talk about assessments, assessment is to serve these purposes. 1, promote learning. You get good assessment, you will promote learning. You will promote students knowing what they are supposed to do and how they are supposed to achieve their goal. You tell the students, okay, students, this subject that I'm doing with you, either final exam or practice. But the other 60 is continuous group assessment, group work. So the students already know what is it and it will help them to achieve their goal. You measure performance, of course. Good assessment will measure performance. Always remember, your assessment that you give must clearly differentiate an A student to a B to a C student. Must clearly differentiate. Okay? Because if some of us tend to say, I see I'm student, but he doesn't achieve. So everybody gets A, but that is wrong. That is not a demonstration of actual achievement. By awarding grades which indicate whether and how well a particular student has attained the stated learning outcome. Good assessment, you award grade. When you award the grade, it means that student has achieved this. Always remember, an A student and a C student got difference. These 2 students passed, yes, but an A student has demonstrated depth of understanding. A C student is competent in the knowledge. Competency means boleh, achieve, cukup makan. A student means that not only cukup makan, I demonstrate that maturity in thought and thinking. That must be. If a cukup makan student also get A, your assessment got no value. Determine whether a particular student is sufficiently well prepared in the subject area to proceed to the next level of instruction. Yes, good assessments will also determine whether the student is on track. I'm not talking, it may not be final exam, it may be periodic formative assessment. Every lesson you do. Every lesson you do is you do a quiz every end of the lesson, and you will then ascertain whether the students achieve. And if they achieve that goal, you know that they are ready to the next lesson. You know that they are ready to the next lesson. Most of our subjects or courses are sequential courses. For those of you who teach subjects in a very traditional way, you always remember any book will have the introduction, basics, then it will go through as a flow. So if the student chapter 1, chapter 2 tak faham, they go chapter 3, they'll be very confused. So this is where determine whether a particular student is sufficiently prepared. Good assessment. After the lesson, you do assessment, then you know whether they are prepared for the next. Like what I did earlier on when we started the recap, the revision. I ask you key questions. The 4 questions I asked you today, the Sunday, are the must know. Last week, I had more than 50 slides, but I only asked you 4 questions. Those were the must know. Very important. Okay, so once you get that right, when you continue today, you will be clearer. That is what it is. That was an assessment. Provide feedback to students which indicate level of attainment and diagnosis, misunderstanding, and learning difficulties. Assessment is when you give feedback to students. At the end of the day, you do assessment to students, they give feedback, well done, or you are not very good here, I need you to do more over there. So once they know, it will reduce misunderstandings and what are the challenges students are facing. Once you do your periodic assessment, you will know, okay, my class teruk mathematics. So you know maybe the issue is mathematics. Maybe the issue is language. And from there you can solve the problem. You can solve the problem. Okay? Because on the third principle of OBE, the institution plays a big role in the success of the student. So this is it. Remember, William Spaley's third principle, the institution plays a big role in the success of the student. Yeah. So once we know what the student find difficult, we solve that issue for them, then they can go forward. See, everything is linked one. Everything is linked. Spaley's principle to assessments and so on. And provide feedback to teaching staff to identify and diagnose ineffective teaching methods. Feedback to you. This is important. When you do assessment, if after teaching, student tak faham, then you know something is wrong. Then you know your teaching method is not suitable for this group. It's not suitable for this group. You are not a bad teacher, you know. You can be a good teacher every year for the past 10 years. Score 4.5 and above. You know, perfect. Very good. But this semester you do the same thing, it's not working. Why? Sometimes it is not you, it is the students understanding the group. So you need to change your method. You change your method. How do you know whether you are okay or not, or you're not okay? Through assessment. You do assessment. Hey, how come now? I've been teaching the same thing for the past 10 years, it's good. This year, every time I do my assessment with the student, every lesson, then their understanding is very low. Why is it very low? Nothing changed. I'm still me. I'm teaching the way, but why not very low? The student. So you will change your method. Maybe you need to change your method. Okay? This is where it comes in. This is where assessment, the purpose of the assessment. Okay? Always remember, it could be formative or summative, which we will look into it later. So when we talk about assessment, not only final exam, it is the constant prodding and also the checking of the student. Okay. So what to assess, as what we have stressed, this is how it is. If you look into the 5 clusters, the strategies, and this is the assessment strategy as a guide. Okay, as a guide. So there are many ways. We have practical tests, demonstrations, we have presentation, project portfolio. I give you one example. You all know industrial placement. Industrial placement. If you look at the whole learning journey of a student, how important do you think industrial placement is? Critical is the most important. Why? Industrial placement in your mind now, if you look into Bloom's taxonomy, kat mana? Kat bawah tu kat middle to high. Yes, application. Whatever they learn, I apply. So, industrial placement assessment is actually critical. It's actually critical, you know, very, very, very important. It demonstrates the person's ability to actually demonstrate, to work, to adapt in that environment. So, if our role is to create students in that way, let's picture this situation, a scenario I'm telling you one, very funny one. I always crack my head. Hotel school, diploma and hotel and catering. We get student, sometimes we got student, ayo, ini student tak boleh pakai, we say that lah. Just between us. In class, exam pun tak baik, presentation pun lebih kurang, you know. So, 2.3 student, 2.4 student. Go to industrial placement, A student, very good. Pernah dengar macam tu? Very good. Oh, yo, brilliant, very student, very good. Industry say very good, customer say very good. Now, in the context of OBE, I see a problem. Why is it? What problem do you think I see? Who can answer? I see a problem.
They not assess properly while studying.
Very good. Okay, very good. We are not assessing him properly while he was studying. The PEO is the adapting to the industry kan, working in the industry kan. If that guy can prove that, what are we doing in the institution that makes him only a 2.2 student or a 2.3 student? Are we assessing properly or not? I'm not saying you're not assessing properly, but I say, are we? The question is this. Because how can we assess a student for 2 years, 2.2 means cukup makan, student. Oh, yeah, this student maybe cannot, but go to industry, suddenly very good. Because if you look at PEO, what is PEO is important. Student going to the industry to adapt and to work. And he is excelling over there, he's doing very well. So is there a mismatch between the assessment that we do in-house? What are our emphasis in-house that is not correct? That is why over in Germany, Germany has a good system. It's called the apprenticeship system. Heard about this? Germany's education system is where a lot of the kids at maybe around 13, 14 years old, they will already pick an apprentice, they will pick a field. They can actually go into and start working there. Okay, adapting to that situation itself. That actually drives the whole interest and the focus on that particular career or that person. So, in the context of the hotel school that I'm saying, it ran my mind because I've been hearing a lot of this. This student not so good, go there. And it could be vice versa. A student, very good. I think Mr. Rizal would have told you many times. Hey, student baik tapi pergi hotel, review teruk. No good. Complain. Cannot work. The worst thing is this. Cannot work. Stress. Come back. Are we doing the right thing? What are we training the students in the right way? That is an A student, 4.0 CGPA, but going to the hotel cannot work. Apa yang salah? That is what it is, what to assess. Now, I am explaining this in a broad picture, This is how it should be. Operational wise, we need to streamline it in a proper manner. Because in the context of general industrial placement is the highest level of demonstration. Demonstrate. I can work is to prove to you that I have achieved, I have done in that way. Okay. So this is something for you to ponder, to think. Especially when you guys are going to be leaders. Maybe you are leading your department and so on. Something for you to think. Okay. So then we have, I'm going to touch on formative versus summative assessment. This one. In outcome-based assessment, OBE is outcome-based assessment that is done in OBE. The assessment method should be constructively aligned with the achievement of the LO. Okay. The assessment methods should also support the learning in their support the learners in their learning progress. Support the learners, which is formative assessment. Formative assessment is assessment that supports the learners in their progress and validate their achievement at the end. This is summative. Okay. In a nutshell, support learners in learning, formative. Validate, summative. The word validate means mengesahkan. Sah that he achieved. That is what validate. So validate means any assessment that got marks, either markup or marks, is summative. Any assessment that helps mendorong them to improve is formative. Understand? That is formative. I use the word understand. It's formative. I'm doing assessment. I'm assessing you by asking you a question. Do you understand? Yes. Got makan? No makan. Formative. Okay. Now, research has said, if you don't do formative, you only focus on the summative. Majority of the students will not do well. not do well. Students who will do well are students who are very matured students, self-learning students, students who do OD, what do you call that, online distance learning. They study on their own. I study on my own, I find my own research and this and that. Then I only go and do exam. You know some students, when they do ACCA exam, they don't need to go class, they just go for the exam. Mature students can. Majority of the students require formative. My question to you, our students over here, how many of them are totally matured students that don't need help, that just don't like? That is why.
Maybe two.
Ada lah, satu dua lah.
Yeah, satu dua lah. Yeah.
Satu dua lah, that's the thing. And most of the time it's only satu, not even dua. Okay? That is why I want to stress this. Formative is critical. It's critical. Okay? I emphasize more on formative because for me, once formative is done properly, you don't need to worry about summative. Their progress is constantly achieved. You ask them, understand? You know the concept, you know. You know? Constantly. Then when you do the midterm test, they just have to demonstrate their knowledge based on their achievement. Now, all our teachers or lecturers do formative, but no evidence. They don't evidence and they don't evaluate and reflect formative assessment. So, formative assessment, you as a cikgu, as a facilitator, you should evidence it, and then you should find out effective or not effective. What method is more effective? This is called reflection. Reflection is the process of seeing the activity that you do and to find whether it achieves the goal. That's called reflection. You look in the mirror, reflection. So you comb your hair. So you have a goal. What is the goal? I want to look presentable when I come to work. So you go to look into the mirror, you see your own reflection. And with that reflection, you adjust to make sure you are presentable. That is reflection in learning. You need to reflect on your activities. Is this class okay now? Can now? Okay? Right. You see, I reflect, I adjust, I see the audience. Have you noticed? I even use DM in explanation. You know this? Why? Relate. Why? My colleagues are all Malaysians. I want to relate them to use a central theme that everybody understands and relate. Language. I don't even use English. I use Bahasa Malaysia in my practice. This is called, and what we do is subconscious mind. We do it subconsciously. Some of you will do the same thing. If you teach in the class and you are, let's say you can speak Mandarin and your class 80% from China students. Sometimes you say, you explain one or two things. This is formative. You are adjusting your method to adapt to make sure they understand. Tapi, we don't evidence. We do it subconsciously. The problem with subconsciously is this. I've been teaching for 23 years, no, actually now 25 years. I have quite a lot of years. I'm not patting myself on the back, but I've got quite a lot of years to fall back on the mistakes that I've done. This is what experience. Now, for the younger staff, you evidence it and you record it to evaluate it's better because you want to know whether it is effective or not. For me, I made my mistakes. I know what was not effective. That is why I'm trying to use things that are now more effective. So this is where it comes in, the formative side. Okay? So, even for new staff, when I do evaluation, we all evaluate staff on confirmation. When we go into class, we observe. What are we observing? I cannot observe the final outcome right now. Whether success lecturer, I observe one time in the class. Let's say I observe class. I do not know whether the student will pass. So I'm observing effectiveness of the class. Effectiveness of the class is the class learning outcome. So class learning outcome is assessed using formative. You know how important is it? Okay. Now, it is important for us to. What is this? You know. Bear in mind, correct. It is important for us to bear in mind that students' assessments should be consistent with the program's goal and intended learning outcome. So the student's assessment must follow the outcome. Okay? Steps for assessment design. Then now we go to step. We know the importance. We know that assessment is not fixed. We know that assessment is open. Who decides you and your panel? So how? 1. Define result to be measured. When you want to do an assessment, so you need to don't choose the assessment first. You decide what do you want to achieve. What do you want to measure? Apa you nak measure? Apa you nak measure? Okay, students' communication skill, students' thinking skill, students' ethics. I say you want to measure ethics, you want to measure leadership skill. So you don't know what you want to measure. Dapat dari mana ni? Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, dapat dari mana ni? LO, betul, LO. Boleh buat sendiri ke?
Kopa.
Kopa, betul, LO lah. What here is LO lah, learning outcome lah, Susi LO, Kopa. Can change or not?
Can.
Can change, but can you change on your own immediately? No, you need to do program review. Because it changes, okay? What to be measured. Then after that, identify data required. For you to measure leadership skill, what data do you need? What do you need to measure leadership skill? Example, for you to measure practical skill, what data do you need? You need the data which you need to see the cake, right? So that is important. What data required and dari mana? Which source? So source can be student, the source is student. Let's say I want to measure practical skill phase 3. Data I need is the actual product itself. The source will be the student. Okay. Then next, review existing assessment method. The method that you are doing currently. What is existing? The historical assessment method that is available. Apa yang ada? Okay. What is being done? Are you using the correct method? What method are you using? Then you look into these two work together. Existing method sekarang, then you may want to define additional method. Are there other methods that can assess this also? Are there other methods? Okay, my question to you. I'm going to do something very practical. Demonstration of the ability to produce a cake. Okay, a black forest cake. Data, the black forest cake. So we need to have the cake, actual, and the source is the student. Okay. So existing method, physical, practical, plus exam. Physical, physical. Now, are there any additional method that can also achieve the same goal? What do you want? You as a cikgu, the data you need is you need to view. What else do you need to assess the cake? Now, guys, you tell me. So you need to see the cake. See, you need to taste. Lagi? Smell. Smell. Yes or no? Smell cake. Cake or smell? Ada lah. Smell. Lagi? What else? Cake. So you need this. You need this. So now is physical, practical exam. My question now is this: under the assessment design, we need to evaluate. Are there any other methods of measurement that will achieve the same goal? Think. Jangan kasi over. Think. Technology sekarang ada mungkin tak tahu. Is there any way?
Can we separate?
Can we separate this one?
Yeah.
Separate.
For instance, one assessment you just do first. Right? You do strike first.
Boleh. Then the next question is efficiency, effectiveness, and resources. Boleh ke tak? Sini buat satu kali 3 jam. You want to separate? Boleh. 3 jam. 9 jam. Tidak. So my question is, question is this: additional methods. Now is practical class. Student masuk. Is there another way? Could there be another way to demonstrate this? Devil's advocate, simulations. Is technology ready to simulate virtual cakes? Not yet. Does AI have the technology to, if I put this ingredient, so what it will come out, and this is what the smell is going to be, this is what the taste is going to be, yes or no? No. Yeah, no. That means at the moment, no. So have to maintain. What I'm trying to say is this. This is just cake, that's why I say something very radical. If you can find additional methods and measures, substitute, and it is better, please go ahead. Why? It is not the method that the assessment is to achieve. The assessment, what do we want? We want to identify the data. This is our goal, you know. Our goal for the assessment is not the practical class. The practical exam is the method, is the tool. It's the tool. The practical exam is the tool to do this. Now, in another scenario, accounting paper, accounts, this one Miss Lin can answer. Accounts, accounts. Results, define results to be measured. What do we need to define? What data? Currently, it is sit-down exam, accounting. Is there another method that we can use for assessment that it is not a sit-down written exam to meet the same goals of competency in accounting? Boleh? Apa tu?
System technology.
Simulations. Could be simulation. Let's say simulation. Very good. Lagi? Some of that accounting student, accounting 3, she has done already. She can do tests. What if I say, okay, for the next 1 month, you are in PwC. I put you on day release. Day release means every Wednesday you go to Price Waterhouse. Example lah, and then you can do work over there. You can do. It's called day release. Satu hari you kena buat so on. Then after that, the assessment review back by the company with the company of clear guidelines. Student must demonstrate this in real life. Boleh tak? So it's called day release. This is just put in day release. Again, accounting, traditional is exam. What other ways? So we got simulation, we got day release.
Internship placement is also part of additional methods.
Internship, very good. So this one is day release. I'm looking at subject related. I'm looking at course related. Internship can be program related. This is just a course. We're talking about accounting. Let's say accounting. Only accounts. ACC3 accounting subject. What other methods, guys? The same goal. We want them to make sure that they can demonstrate the competency, the same competency. Simulations. They release. So this one is using maybe artificial AI technology. Okay. Let's take these two in the concern of time. Okay. We evaluate, we have exam, simulations, and day release. All of them are different merits. They can achieve the goal of different merits. Then we need to look at, when you look into this, it's called evaluation. Which one will be expensive to implement? Which one would require a lot of training and cost? Which one will be expensive? Training, expensive doesn't mean money. It can be time, it can be effort, it can be this and that and so on. Sure.
Simulation.
It could be this one software, right? Software, money. Some more? Training. Why? I need to train all the managers, the Price Waterhouse, all the managers about how to evaluate my student. How to evaluate. You see now, I need to train them. Right? The goals, they must know LO. So this one can be here. Cost is time cost. Okay. Padahal, if you look at perfection, day release we can achieve 98% of our goal. Simulation 97%. Exam only 94% is the lowest lowers in a way effectiveness. But because of the cost involved and the time, we choose an assessment method that it is most effective, efficient, cost related. You see now? What I'm trying to put here is this: assessment, the more you think, the more you read, so many methods. But sometimes, do we have the expertise to do it? Do we have the cost to do it? Do we have the time to do it? We do it. Okay, so this is how it is. You get this, guys? So at the end of the day, if cost is no issue, we will do day release because effective rate 98%, very good. So we change our assessment method to this. Then we implement and we evaluate. Students come back, man, very good. I go there, I did this, I really have practiced what I am doing. I can really do, I know the real problems. Because theory kat class different from real problems outside. Real problems your customer dealer. I really learn. Good, memang very good. Then we do it. See? So when you talk about assessment, it is like that. Let me give you one example. You know the implementation of learning management system. LMS, kita pakai apa? You go online, you check. There are more than 1,000 LMSs in the market. So many, from ultra expensive, used in Harvard, to freeware, also got everything got cost on the cost. There is cost. We chose those that are most efficient or effective for us. It's the same thing. There are many different products, many different methods, even in assessment. So this is how you look at it. Then you implement and you evaluate. If it is good, next semester when you do, you go back to the same process. This is how it should be done. And it's not done individually, it is done in panel. And I always tell the schools, please do this. Why? A lot of our assessment method is kuno. Kuno means backdated. Very backdated. Old school, because it has been using for many years. It's not the best method to evaluate students. If there is a mismatch that after industrial placement, your students come back, a good student fail industrial placement or a bad student excel in industrial placement, you know your assessment method is something wrong. And you need to adjust. Okay? You get it? Because this is critical assessment. Okay? Another example here, I even put a side here, assessment, set learning outcomes, communication skill. What is the task? Individual presentation. Criteria. This is the criteria when you're doing your assessment for your presentation. Intro, timing, and clarity. Then you develop performance standards. This is your rubric. You must have a rubric when you do assessment. You do a rubric. Then after that, you will be able to assess the student. This is practical learning when you are setting the exact assessment. Here, earlier on, we look at the big picture. Here is if now we are doing presentation, how do we work, how do we actually make sure that we have it correct? Okay, construct overall. Now, generally, guys, I'm going to take a break over here. The whole concept of assessment, guys, it is something that is very it's large. It is something which the more you read about it, the more you question, the more you will see that there are so many avenues for development. But we need to also understand the limitations that we have. What are the key limitations, resources that is restricting us from doing certain things? That is why, as we go along, I'm trying to open your eyes a little bit on the avenues that we have on assessment methods over here. Okay, so I'm going to give you a break. Please take a short break, a 5-minute break. Go get a drink and so on, and then we will continue. Today's session is a bit longer than last week's session, just a little bit more to cover. Okay, all right, guys, good. All right, please go for a break now.
Okay, Gabriel.
Yeah.
When is the next break?
My next break should be in an hour's time.
Okay, because I want to check my laptop battery. Okay, thank you.
Okay. If you're on campus, you can come to 206.
I'm
Yeah.
at home. That's why I need to know whether I need to run to the campus.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Switch all four, that's right. All four.
And it's just only.
No, it's once the room they book already, the maintenance on is fixed up, but they can actually control too. Sometimes they catch 22 situation. If all 70 students are in class, that's the problem. Okay, thank you. So we are going to continue. The key aspects on assessment already is there in the first part. That is the first part of our session. That's the key aspects. So as you can, just to continue, assessment tasks and processes fulfill 3 key roles for students' learning. So when we talk about all assessments, it facilitates students' capacity to meet learning outcomes, formative. So good assessment, formative assessment, basically facilitates students' capacity. Number 2, develop students' ability to become confident self-evaluators. So good assessment and students will become self-evaluators. They know whether they are on track or not on track. Success breeds success. So when I do formative assessments, do you understand? You all say yes, I understand. But maybe Monday didn't understand certain things, so he's evaluating. I'm not very sure about that. Maybe I will ask him later. So this is called self-evaluators. We have this goal that we want all our students to be mature learners, that they attain knowledge on their own. They get knowledge on their own. And finally, provide evidence of achievement of learning outcome. Okay, the achievement of learning outcome, summative assessment. So that is another key purpose for the assessment itself. All right. So when you look into curriculum design, how we design the curriculum, dia macam ni lah. Curriculum is always designed this way. PEO goes down, and then end with LLO, whereas assessment is the other way. You do your lesson assessment, if everything achieved, then the CRO achieved and it goes up. Okay? Formative assessment is a form of low-stakes assessment for learning and is part of the instructional process. Formative is an instructional process. So it is a process that you do, you are continuously collecting data. So you adjust teaching and learning when all of this happens, adjust. You see students are faham, body language, macam ini, you slow down. You see students understand, they know their heads a lot, you can increase the speed. This is all formative. And all of you know this based on experience. You see your student, you know already. So your timing is adjusted. Okay? Inform both teachers and students about students' understanding at a point when timely adjustments can be made. Okay, so examples would be things such as like progress test exercise. I find this very important. You are teaching 70 students, you cannot ask Ali, you okay, Abdul, you okay, Abu, you okay, cannot. See body language. And you can see you can see the way that if they're interested, they are more forward. If you see some of them are drifting off, they can be tired. And you want to adjust. That's formative. If students are drifting off because they're tired in the morning or practical class, you want to adjust your delivery. No point going on if they're not following. So you want to adjust. That is formative. Questioning, homework. So this is your Kahoot and Quizy lah. Q-U-I-Z-E, right? Or Q-U-I-Z-E. Quizy, yeah. Q-U-I-Z-E. Something like that. So this is a questioning and then homework and so on. So this is formative. Summative also known as high stakes examination or assessments. is to measure the level of success, performance, quality, proficiency of the student. And it is always compared against some standard or benchmark. Yeah, now, ask you a question. Final exam that you all set exam. After, where do we see the standard or benchmark? What document is the standard or benchmark that you mark your exam? The Bloom's taxonomy. The Bloom's is the standard of our benchmark. And with your model answer. Model answer is not the final answer. This note is a guide. The model answer is a guide. Your students can be cleverer than you, don't forget that. They are, no issue, that is good. They can give answers that are correct and it's not in your notes. What are you going to do? Wow, you must okay, so that is it. Okay, so the purpose is to make judgment and assign grades. Example, exams, graded assignments, graded projects, and so on. Summative. Understand? Formative, summative. My tip to you, summative, you guys are quite pro because you're doing it for many years. Formative, we always take it as byproduct. Don't put some effort. You do good formative assessment, your summative will be settled because you already developed them every lesson. Then the summative will be achieved. Don't need to worry so much. Just grade formative. The whole idea is you don't need to grade formative. No, grade, but not will it affect the final exam, the final grade?
Because my on is 100% possible. And most of the, I guess 80% is formative.
Okay, no. Then continue, your 80% is still summative. Any grade that will have an impact to the final, any mark that will have impact to the final grade is called summative. So your continuous assessment is still summative. Formative is like what we are doing in class. That do you understand? We use Kahoot and those kind of things. What I'm trying to say is, if those things are done in a proper manner and it's controlled in the correct manner, then you do not need to worry about the summative side so much because students will already be ready. They are already continually improving themselves. They do not know they ask you. They do not know they ask you. We want to create an environment where students start out their time. When they ask, they learn. Many of the problem is students don't ask even though they are not competent in a particular area. So that is when formative helps. Formative is the way to prompt them to achieve their goal, to prompt them to ask questions, to prompt them where they don't understand. That is formative. The biggest, I would say, practitioners of formative are parents. Parents developing their child. Formative assessment, small thing, hey, you know that, this is how you should do, well done, this and that, it's formative. So, methods of assessment, methods will vary depending on the learning outcomes to be measured. Okay, so different methods. Direct assessment involves examinations, so we have direct and we have indirect. We got direct assessment and we have indirect assessments. Now, direct assessment very straightforward. What we give to the student. Okay. Stephanie, I think you are not muted. Okay. That's Ryan. Whereas indirect assessments refer to the analysis of reported perception about students' mastery of learning outcome. It may be in the form of employer surveys, exit interviews of graduates, self-report by students or supervisors during attendance and so on. What we're trying to say here is assessment can be direct, where we give the student to do, or it can be indirect on students' performance, behavior, and the employer actually assess them. That is also an assessment method. That is demonstration. Okay, so this is where we refer to that. Okay, now which one is more important? This is the one in class where we always like direct assessment, very straightforward for us. But I always feel indirect assessment is the third party evaluating. That is the proof of the pudding, whether it works or not, whether students interview or not. This is actually also important. But it is difficult to do. Susah. Why do you think over in Malaysia, the ministry actually, there was I think a regulation that all programs need industrial placement have. Previously, certain ones, now they say all programs need industrial placement. Why? Because what is important is the demonstration. The demonstration, students really can do or not, whether they can accept, whether they can adapt. Those things are important. Okay? Questions? Can? That's assessment. Okay. Now, assessment methods chosen must be aligned with the process of finding evidence of the LO attainment. Whatever assessment you do, you want to make sure that the is based on the evidence on LO and must be consistent with the students' learning time required. So now we go to the nitty-gritty. You know different types of assessment, this and that. So when you give assessment, you got to make sure that the assessment will be consistent on the time to complete the task. Don't give students a 5,000 word essay tomorrow now. Time is a resource. Time, money, all of these are resources. So you need to make sure that the resources you give to the student is equivalent to the reward that you get at the end. 5,000 word essay for 5 marks, students will do. Generally, our students will do. 5 marks only, I don't waste my time. Students are very rational beings. They are putting value into their perspective. If I invest this amount of time, I get that, is it equated? Can I use the time to do something else better? I go lepak with my friend, I get more fun, enjoyment, than to sit down the whole night, cannot sleep, and do that report for Mr. Gabriel. And what do I get? Maximum 5 marks. Can I get 5 marks? No. He will give me maximum 4, for example. Is that 4 marks justified? I've already done well in my midterm. My final exam, I'm quite a good student, I don't want to do. Got that? For students like that? I don't know. Okay, unless it's compulsory to pass. So this is what it means. When you do assessment, you need to think about that. You need to think the investment put in versus the reward. So you need to think of your student, the investment that the student should put in over the reward. Okay? Not all students are the same. Some students are very conscious in the way of their grades. I must do well, I must do well. They will do everything right. But by putting 5,000 word essay in one day, are you expecting quality? No, you're going to expect regurgitation. They got no time to do research. They will just cut and paste, cut and paste, cut and paste, rephrase. At the end of the day, it's a hodgepodge of everything taken from the internet. Is that what you want? No. So this is what it means. What are the learning time? What is the time, the investment that the student puts in? Okay? They must also consider practical issues in scoring and providing feedback for the purpose of promoting learning. When you do, always make sure you give feedback to the student. When students do their assessment, assignments, and whatever, they hand it to you. When a student hands it to you a work that they have done, in their mind is, I have done my best. Okay? If there is no feedback, and at the end of the day, students get 5 out of 10 marks, and they don't know, they will still think that they have done their best, and they will continue doing that. That is why feedback is very important. Feedback tells the student, well done, however, this part here is not accurate. So once the students know it's not accurate, they will know where they went wrong and will change. That is why feedback is critical. Feedback to the students. Okay. So we have a practice here. Students send in assignment, preferably in 1 week. With feedback. If no worse, the whole also 2 weeks. But before final exam, all should be prepared. So they know where they stand. Okay. Alright. That is go hand in hand with outcome-based education. They need to know whether they achieve the evidence and whether they have achieved. Questions there? Okay. So, assessment methods, general flow over here will be planning assessment tasks, communicate the assessment plan to students. I put this here because I want to stress on this part. The first part, don't give assignment to students as a surprise. No surprise. Students on first day should know what their assessments are. Not saying question, that means this course, you got midterm, you got final, you got group assessment, 40% must do presentation, they must know, so that they are already planned in their mind. This is the requirements of the course. This is, I think it is given in your course outline right now. My very important course outline is critical. Students need to know. Okay? Then after that, how you you said will be very based on the flow, what kind then you go in, and so on. Correct? I mean, I don't want to touch so much later, you can just read it in notes. I just want to stress this. Why? I have seen certain during review, some students that know what happens is sometimes when MQA comes to school, they speak to students. So they ask, hey students, so your course over here, you know your assessment? Oh no, actually we didn't know our assessment. Oh, you good. Students say they didn't know their assessment until they got an assessment. So then they ask, did you receive a syllabus subject? Some students are like that, actually got lah, so these are the things that are important. Okay. All assessment must be fair, valid, and reliable. All assessment that you give must be fair. There must be fairness, validity, and reliability. But every assessment, midterm exam, final exam, or whatever, fairness is about ensuring the assessment is accessible to all. In your class, all the students can do. That is called fairness. Okay? Fairness is very important. You cannot, one student, very good eyesight, all students, biasa. You change your font to 6. That's not fair. What font enough only good for him because he got bionic eyesight. The others normal cannot. So this is called fairness. Your assessment must be fair, number one. Okay? Number two, your assessment must be valid. Whether an assessment measures what it claims. Your assessment must be able to measure what it claims. So if we do a written test for baking a cake assessment, is that valid? Written test, what essay for a pastry exam, baking a cake one to show demonstration of the cake. Would that be valid? Does the written test measure what is claimed? No. Student just list out. First you do the measure the flour, this and that. So it's not valid. It's not valid. That assessment, even students get 100 marks, doesn't prove they can make cake. And finally, this one. This is the most difficult. Refers to an assessment being consistent over time and across assessors. You use the same assessment. You give group A, the marks are like that. You give group B, if the student inside there are similar to group A, the marks should be the same. That is called reliability. A tool must be reliable. A ruler is reliable. Satu kaki, 1 feet, or I use 1 feet, 30 cm is the same if I use or if Azwa use, is 30 cm. It's not reliable. That is the reliable tool. If I use 30 cm actually, I give it to her, she pakai, it becomes like that, it is not reliable. That tool cannot use. Now, this one, what we have found is the most difficult. Emotions of individuals sometimes set papers due to class. With this group, is not so good, so I changed. This group class very good, I changed. That is why exam papers here are set victory kan? Victory and victory set early. And it is set based on what? You set exam papers based on student or outcome. Always remember outcome. Because what changes and what doesn't change every semester. Students change, but outcome will change. So that is called reliability. When you look at assessment, any of your assessment must have all of these contexts. If got this context, only it is regarded as good assessment. Anyone don't have bad assessment. What if you have a student in your class that is dyslexic or something like that, requires extra time? Some people probably mata tak baik ke apa. Same exam, but we give more resources. What resource do we give? Time. Correct? Normal student 2 jam, others, this group 2.5. Why we give extra 5? Extra 5 is fairness. Considering this student cannot see buta, so we need to give the extra 0.5 to make it fair, to even out. That is what it is. That's why it is like that. Okay? We exam department has many times printed exam paper, font, 16. Big font. Students have seen, some students, we have to accept that. So this is how it is. They have a very good guide. If got condition, we do that. Okay? Understand, huh? Understand? So now you know why moderation is done. Your moderation, your partner, but for your subject, you have another expert that moderates you. Why must there be another expert? Let's say you are teaching events. Okay, let's say teaching events. There's no events lecturer in hotel school, no more. Let's say. And then you just take, take a marketing lecturer to come and do moderation. You know why cannot? They don't know. Marketing lecturer may not know about events. So when you check, you do not know whether is this assessment is consistent, is reliable or not. They don't know. The questions, you see that you do not know the essence. You need to know the essence. You ask me to evaluate accounting paper. I don't know. I cannot do. Because I'm not an expert. That is why there must be panel evaluation. Panel. Okay. You know, why do you do that? No, susah. Tak reliable. Questions? So it's not only exam, presentation also same and so on. So when you do presentation, what is the tool that you use to ensure consistency? You as a cikgu, very good. Rubric, siapa evaluate rubric? When you do rubric, make sure you have somebody to evaluate your rubric, because that is the tool. You know, you are like a person who has just created the pembaris. You need somebody to bawa a standard pembaris to measure your pembaris to make sure it's satu kaki. Then only you use. See, exactly the same thing. But as I said, a lot of these things it requires effort. You need to got more work to do. You need to ask a friend, hey, can you evaluate my rubric? You know, like you guys do it, it's so much easier. It actually covers your time. The students question, hey, well, this one, oh yes, this is how we did. It's really been better. We go through the process. See, standard should have done. Because this is the one that will determine their grade. Okay? Questioning strategies, planning questions, effective questioning session in classroom require advanced preparation. Now we're going to look at how do you set question. How do you set question? Set question, tak senang. Okay? Some are skilled, some are not, but it requires a lot of thinking. You really need to think what do you want to set when you plan your question. Okay? Now, so there is always basically two styles. We got lower level and higher level questioning. Lower level typically remember, understand and apply. Higher level is analyze and create. So we got lower level and higher level. Knowledge, lower level and higher level. This one you guys pro. Okay? I don't go so much. I just want to show to you here. Okay? Understand that? Now, do you think everything must be high level? No. It depends on what? Level of student depends on diploma, and that goes to your MQF. So everything is bukan kita yang buat, MQF sudah ada. MQF already say tahap 4 is what we do, tahap 5 what we do this one. Very good. So we have level. Then we also have open and close. Open and close question. So a closed question is one for which there are limited number of acceptable answers, most of which will usually be anticipated by the lecturer. Okay. Example, what is the definition of an adjective? That is closed. Definition satu saja kan, lebih kurang. Open question is one where there are many acceptable answers, most of which will not be anticipated. What is an example of an adjective? Example, banyak adjective for so many, so you need to give example. Now, as facilitators, you need to understand what do you want students to give. What is the definition and what is an example is two different things. We have two different answers. So it is important for us to understand what are we assessing the students on. Do you want students to define? Do you want students to give examples? If you want students to give examples, you need to understand that sometimes certain things are very wide. Okay? And you yourself need to understand and know whether the answers are correct or not. Okay? So these are closed and open. Now, lower level certificate, diploma year 1, you will see more closed, very limited, because you want to demonstrate knowledge. Higher level, you require students to demonstrate initiative. It can be more open. Okay? That's how it is. Closed questions, more knowledge related, fundamental. Now, I'm not saying don't put, it's very important also. You need to know lower level before you higher level, so it's also very important. Okay? But you don't do everything and just low level close. There must be certain ones that require students to elaborate also. Steps for planning question. 1. Goal or purpose for asking question. First thing, what is the goal? Why are you doing this? There must be a reason. You set an exam paper. Why? For what? So there must be LOs, course learning outcome. Students need to demonstrate certain knowledge on what and so on. 1. 2. Select the content for question. What is the content in the question itself for questioning? Alright? So you choose the material, which are the things that are important. Take for example, marketing. If you look at marketing, in the book there are 15 topics. Final exams you're supposed to cover 80% of the syllabus. 80% of 15 topics you're looking at roughly around 12 topics. Must touch 12 topics, okay? So when you look into the content of the question, there are 12 topics. You need to select. Can you ask all 12 topics? Cannot. It could be the student choose questions and so on. So you need to prioritize upper and under. Which are the things that we must know? What is the important things, the key concepts of marketing and so on. Okay? Then ask questions that require an extended response. Ask questions that require the student to further elaborate, not just fix. Further elaboration allows for question or topic relation. Topic 2, 3, and 4 can be related with one question if you are able to create an extended response. Because the theories are there, so you create questions that require them to elaborate on this area. So this allows for demonstration of knowledge. Then, sometimes if you are not that well versed, you may want to do scripting. Scripting means getting yourself ready by writing script on questions. Writing the question itself. Alright? Arrange the list so that when you ask the questions, it could be verbally in class, then you are more confident. So because you can be a little bit new in that topic or in that subject. Unless you know it very well, then it is fine. Okay? Phrase your questions so that the task is clear to the students. Questioning needs to be very clear to the students. Here, I want to give a tip. Action verbs that you use for your question, explain to them in class. Describe, elaborate, explain, list. Sometimes students don't know. Compare. I still remember, I did a compare question previously. Students only put one example. How do you compare with one example? You need to compare with something. Not because students don't understand. Not because students are not intelligent, but because they don't understand the word. This is called phrase your questions so that the students. So, what I do is this. The verbs that I use in my exam, I will use it in class. This is a good thing. Use it in class. So, I have a session to actually tell the students, alright, in your exam, you're going to see this type of words. What does compare mean? What does elaborate mean? Serious, you'll be shocked that some students don't understand that. And that word, the action verb elaborate, and the verb there, discuss, will impact the grade that the student gets. A lot of students jump to the conclusion, oh, you want that, should I start writing? But how it is not that, it's to compare something with something else. So this is phrase your question, make it clear to the students, and the students usually understand. Okay? Avoid implied response question. Don't ask questions which like, don't we all agree that the author of the article has said, don't we all agree? Already telling the students, we all don't agree. You see, so that is the way you don't prompt the students in the way that they think. Right? Questioning. Allow them to express their own behavior, express their own acceptance and decision on that. Okay, this is called avoid blank questions. And then we have plenty of questions and anticipate possible students' responses. Anticipate. If you give them an open question, expect heaven and earth answers. Heaven and earth answers means any question. Like your students, let's say you're having a general paper question. Students, your aim is to get rich when you're 21. How would you achieve that? Some will say, sir, I work hard traditionally. Some will say, I buy number, Toto, first prize, I buy. Some will say, marry a rich partner. Some will say, rock back. All are correct, they're not correct. All correct, they're not wrong. But how do you think? So you need to anticipate students' answer. Pernah dapat? Starting. Not yet, you wait and see your students. See? So that is why sometimes when we set questions in our mind, our perspective is either saya. I write it all. I will answer it this way. How do I get rich at 21? Oh, at 21, I will reach. I will work hard now. I will make sure. You expect, but your question doesn't allow for that. Your question is so open that you do not know what answers that you will receive. So this is called anticipation. Anticipation of questioning. Anticipation of questioning. That is why mathematics teacher don't need to worry about this. Dia senang. Kalau math saja 3 campur 5, you tak tahu lah. Okay, that's the other aspect. It's more subjective. That's where the challenge comes in. And this will affect the way you grade your student. How you grade, what marks do you allocate? Okay, what answers do you give as proper? What answer challenge? Okay. Next, answer guide. Answer guide, or what you all call model answer. I don't like to use the word model answer. Model answer, like model citizen, is a citizen that represents what it should be. Wait, answer guide. Answer guide acts as a guide for marking. What is a guide? Guide is to help you. Guide is not fixed in stone. Okay? Now, should have a clear criteria of what is expected on answer. Criteria, not should have the answer. I didn't write here. Should have the answer. It's just a criteria. Criteria means the areas that you can award marks. Okay? Does not need, however, good to state exact terms. Now, what kind of answer is fixed that you can state exact terms? Then you get marks. Let's say, what kind of question do you think is the jawapan is fixed on?
Accounting.
Accounting. Okay, to a certain extent, yes, not wrong.
Yes, ma.
Yes. Lagi?
Medical.
No, let's not go into medical, you're not wrong. But let's say, what kind of questions? MCQs. MCQs can be exact term. I was thinking more of definitions. Okay, certain clear definitions, guys, that you want students that
Theories.
theories related, fine. But remember, we learned theory that is going to be reward banyak sikit. Sikit only. So you still can, but sikit only lah. Certificate you can reward more lah. But diploma is slowly you reward less. So does not need, however, to state exact terms. So if the definition, exact terms mesti ada. But define management. Management is a process of planning, organizing, leading, and controlling to achieve organizational goals. That is the definition of management. POLC to achieve organizational goals. So in that sense, if that is the clear definition, then you can it's a process of POLC to achieve organizational goals. Fine answer. Okay. Right? Fine. A rubric plays a critical role in allocation of grades. Rubric. You must have a rubric, a clear rubric. Now, is a rubric or are rubrics only for presentations and reports? What about exam? Can use rubric? Can. Exam can use rubric, guys. Exam can use rubric also, especially if your exam is very, very subjective, acquires explanation, requires a lot of description, and it is not fixed. No clear answer. The higher level you go, all right, then you can use a rubric. to mark. Okay, the higher focus. When the higher you go, there is no fixed already, it is more expression. It is more in a way definite what do you call that, expression of theory and concept. So that one you can use a rubric. So rubric so can okay. Answer guide, guys. So take note, that is the guide. Now, learning styles. So now we already understand exam types of questions that we ask. So once we know that already, these are the types of questions that can be asked open and closed. Then next we need to do is what kind of learning styles do our students have? Some of our students got different kind of styles. Alright? Why some of our students in class don't pay attention but do well in the exam? Okay? Every student has strengths and weaknesses. Every student has their own styles. Okay? So it is important for us to understand how the student learns or how the student adapts. Okay? 100% of students benefit when they encounter information in multiple forms. 50% of students primarily learn through doing. 40% of students primarily learn through watching. 80% of students through lecturing. 10% of students through hearing. So, now, hearing alone means radio, online. Now, if you look at, now I have two groups of students, one online, one physical. Alright? The one online, there is something which is different, which is the physical aspect of it. It requires a lot of discipline. My physical one here, some of them want to go to the toilet, they tahan because Gabriel is standing in front of me, I tahan first. I don't go. I pay attention. The one online I cannot see. I'm not saying online is bad or whatever, I'm just this is an example. So when you look into just hearing, it's 10% because you get more distracted, you feel that you are not being observed. So this is learning styles. Okay, now. VARK, V-A-R-K, heard before, right? Okay? VARK. Okay? Visual, auditory, read and write, kinesthetic. We understand students are different. She writes notes. You write notes. I am not a note writer. I need to pay attention. I need to write that one. Okay? Pay attention, 100%, then I'll learn. I cannot write that. Maybe I know you're multitasking. That's myself. Or maybe my handwriting, it's so bad, no point writing notes. Yes, I am different. You are different. She's different. We are all different. Our students are all different. Okay? Some use images, maps. We used to have an ex-CEO over here, Dr. Chia. You know Dr. Chia? You know Dr. Chia? Were you there? Chia Chicken.
Yeah, no.
Some of you know, right? Okay. Every time you go meeting with Dr. Chia, you discuss with her, she will say, hey, wait, write the what? She is. So you discuss with her, she say, right, so you need to go to the right board. Then she likes mind mapping. So this is the issue, then this is what, then it comes down, then she sees the picture. She's a good decision maker, but her style is like that.
Her background is in science, right?
Yes, she is a science, she is a biologist.
Oh.
So she's like that, or is it a physicist, I can't remember. So she is like that. So every time, why? Because that is how she adapts. That's how she learns. Our students are also like that. So it's important for us to, in a way, understand different learning styles of students. The more we can integrate, the more we can, then it's better for us to in a way, get students to demonstrate capability. Which brings me to this. If we say all our students are different and we agree, right? All of us are so different. Why is traditional examination so this? Traditional assessment is right. We now accept the fact people are all different. But why is traditional this? Does that mean the exam is fixed to benefit individuals who are on the R learning style? Yes. Yes.
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately, yes. Yes. Why? Cheap. Murah. 100 students. Buat assessment, satu exam paper, photocopy, bagi semua, 2 jam habis. Then I take my time, rumah ni copy.
Easy to control also.
Easy control. If I want to do other assessment methods, let's say presentation, 100 students, you mati. You pingsan. You get what I'm saying? But students' learning is different. Now, going back to OBE, outcomes based, students achieve their own way and their own achieve and so on. So, traditional way, no good. That is why emphasis now is to understand student styles. Susah kita, but this is the way to go. And what are they using? Technology. We have to use technology is to assist us in a way that will drive students' learning. Current state, the way students learn in the physical aspect is a 9 to 5 process. Means 1 week, 24 times 7, how many days? How many hours? 24/7, 28, 34, 168 hours. 168 hours. But students on time, 1 day, 9 to 5, let's say, 40 hours of learning. So 40 hours they come for class to learn. Alright, maximum lah. That's our working hours. But 1 week, 168 hours. What I'm trying to say is this. Actual potential for students learn differently. Some students learn at night, this and that, and so on. So with the use of technology, we are able to now cater or adapt to the different learning styles. Going blended, we go blended learning, we are really blended now. Assist students, some of our students, 9 to 5 class tak boleh punya. At night, they all cerdas. Burung hantu, they are called nocturnal. At night, they are alert. You see them doing their work at night, no issue, they still learn. So, the traditional aspects of 9 to 5 is gone. We got burung hantu now. That is how it is, because learning styles are different. Okay? So, what are the strategies? This one you can read later when I pass to you. Visual SWOT strategies, graphics, oral recording. I got student masa I used to teach. Sir, no lecture you speak so fast, I don't have time to write notes, but I listen very good. I can record your lecture. Last time, I record copyright and you cannot do it. Can student listen back? Okay. So what are we doing? Currently, this whole session is recorded. So some of you can actually, and in the background, it's called background noise. If you cannot sleep, listen to my lecture, you should sleep. Okay? We write notes. Majority notes works. Why? Goes back to the senses, the 5 senses. When you write notes, you hand moving, you listen, you write, you see. So you're using more senses. It works. It works. This is one of the most important, one of the best, one that is can adapt. Okay, and finally kinesthetic. Okay, able to do, able to practice. Okay, certain sounds of students need to really, in a way, practice on the hand needs to do things and whatnot. Okay, these are styles. Okay. So curriculum delivery. So we see the way students learn differently. Now we can look at how to deliver the curriculum. Okay. There must be a variety of learning, teaching methods in order to achieve the 5 clusters and to ensure students take responsibility for their own learning. Curriculum delivery is a process of achieving learning outcomes of the programs and should be supported by assessment. That's what we understand. Curriculum delivery. Alright, how we deliver curriculum. So when we talk about curriculum delivery, one key aspect is what is taught versus what is learned. From inputs such as what is taught to outputs what is learned. Active learning, blended learning. So what we see here is we want to emphasize not on the inputs, but we want to emphasize is what is learned by the student. So we want to, what is learned by the student through the process of this active learning, blended, personalized learning, and whatnot. Here is the aspect of understanding OBE. Our students are different. we need to use different styles. We need to use different methods. We need to allow students to be creative on their own. Okay? Inquiry-based learning, self-directed. You heard of flipped classroom? Flipped classroom. Very good. Flipped classroom is very good. Flipped classroom is, let's say, I teach marketing, chapter 1 to chapter 15. So I tell my student, introduction I do. Next week, group A, I want you to take the first half an hour and explain to the class chapter 2 next week. Group B, chapter 3, chapter 4, example lah. But normally how I practice last time is, I say group A, chapter 2. When the next week, I will say the next group, I won't tell them in advance, it's not fair, man. Surprise! Okay. Now, why is it good? Why is flipped classroom good? It is what is learned. Students think that we are lazy, but it's actually highest level of knowledge and understanding is when you can teach and when you can explain. So students who need to do their research in chapter 2, then they will come up with a summary because I give them limitation. What is limitation? Half an hour. Half an hour is a limitation. They cannot just read from the textbook. They are given half an hour only. So they need to tapis apa yang penting, tapis maybe suddenly come and refer to me, check, sir, okay lah, then they come, they present, they tell, they teach students, then students ask questions, but I don't understand, basically the students will explain, if they are not correct, I will guide them, I'm there, I'm facilitating, but students are teaching the class, that is flipped classroom, and by doing so, students are demonstrating knowledge, you demonstrate by able to explain and express the basic concept. And when they do well already, we say well done, pat them on the back, they sit down. Second principle of Williams training, success breeds success. Students will say, oh, I tahu, I pandai. Students want to be recognized. Students want to pat themselves on the back. But nobody will say, please pat me on the back. We make it, let them do on their own, let them demonstrate. Well done, good. They are happy. No good, not so good. We counsel them, we advise them. So this is how it is. And then make it gamify a little bit. Group A, group B, group C. So maybe you give them a little bit of marker or something like that. At the end of the day, somebody give chocolates, sneakers or something like that. We gamify it. And then we put who is the one that marked them? Their peers. Their peers. Ranking, baik atau baik, faham atau tak faham. And you as a cikgu, if your class is big, tak payah ajar. But because, as I said, remember your last lesson, are you a cikgu or facilitator? You are facilitating. It's called facilitation. Okay? So, teaching and learning strategies. We already talked about the assessment strategies kan. Now this is your teaching and learning lecture, case, so many stuff. This one I don't emphasize so much, right? You guys you have your own practice, you have your own styles, you have your own methods. But I told you before, I brought students to kopitiam, different environment, also different, so those are the different aspects. Okay. So that is on that. Next, I'm going to touch on the rubric. Now the rubric. Okay, so we already know importance of assessment, we already know types of assessment, we already know how do we set assessment, we already covered aspects such as like what drives and how students learn. Now we're going to look into something very straightforward here. It's called basics of rubric. What is a rubric? Okay, so the key thing here I want to stress is this word. Tool. Rubric is a tool. A hammer is a tool. There's a nail, you want to hit the nail, what can you use? You will say, okay, you use a hammer. Hammer is the best tool, but I use a knife also can, man. I use a butter also can, man. I use brake also can, man. But brake hit won't go in, very slow, not effective. So, because rubric is a tool, you got to make sure that the design of the tool is done, that it will be efficient in your role, your goal. And what is your goal? Assessment of the student. Okay? So, sometimes it is called marking rubric, marking sheet, marking scheme. So, assessment rubrics can be used for any assessment task. They are most often designed on 1 page, grades and so on. It's not designed. It can be 2 pages, it can be 1 page, it can be 3 pages and whatnot. Okay. Serve several important functions. Now, number 1, explicit. Make marking process explicit. Explicit means clear, not guesswork. Not 5, 3, 8. And that is not explicit. That one is called teka-teki. That is called tika. Explicit, clear. Why 5? Why 3? Why 8? Why? That is the rubric. It is an important document because it is the one that is your evidence. Ali did well. Why did well? Because you see presentation very good, intro good, this, that. Next, it presents the criteria and the standards which the student's work is being judged. What is the criteria and standard? Criteria is, example, presentation criteria is intro, body, conclusion. That's criteria. Standard is your intro. What are the conditions of the intro? What does it mean? Good intro. What is an average intro? What is a bad intro? Those are standards. Okay, so you must have criteria and standards. 3, overall feedback in a clear, succinct way. Rubric, give student feedback. Well done. They want to know why well done. And they say, oh, I was clear, my voice was loud, and I had good eye contact. So the student will know, good eye contact. That's why I was good. So I will continue doing that. That's feedback. Provides focus for conversations about standards between teaching team and between teachers and students. Good rubric between teaching teams. Who? Your panel. Your panel, experts, biology panel, look at the rubric, you comment, then you know. And also between teacher and students. Do we have a set rubric in KDU? No. All discipline different one. But there should be basic principles. Okay? To work effectively, assessment rubric need to build logical relationship and accountability between. So when you set your rubric, you must have a relationship between this. You must be accountable on National Discipline Standards MQA. You set your rubric, MQA already got rough guide, apa itu baik, tak baik, so on. So you need to follow that. CLO, Subject Learning Outcome. Okay, I believe we don't need this, but this was taken in the old context. CLO, Assessment Criteria, and how well you guys achieve your LOs. What are your general assessment criteria? Okay, so you must have make sure your CLOs are clear when you set the rubrics. Okay, MQA, your CLOs. Okay, so rubric is not a guessing game. You have a wrong tool, everything is good. Let's picture you buy a ruler, you are a cheapskate. You go to Popular, you buy the cheapest ruler, and that cheapest ruler is made in a place where quality not there. Satu kaki is actually 29 cm saja, not even low. Then you go back, you measure your baju, you nak buat baju kan, you measure your kain and whatever, then you cut. What happens? It's too small, 1 cm. So that is why it needs to make sure you follow all of this, check and balance, then only you use the tool. The tool, not overbuy, pakai terus. Jangan, need to have check and balance. So, why use rubrics for teaching staff? Effective, efficient way of consistently marking large number of assignments. Yes, this one will help you. You have rubric, you want to mark assignment, it's enough. You read, straight away, you circle where the mark is, where the mark is, where the mark is. Based on that rubric, everybody will be fair. Everybody will be fair. Okay, opportunity to discuss expectations of assessment tasks and the subject's learning outcome with students. You mark ready with the students, Ali, this very standard. Because of this, you are advised to give the rubric to the student. You do that, you give the rubric to the student. Why? As a student, I need to know apa itu A, apa itu B, apa itu C, apa itu D, apa itu fail. I need to know. So when I give the rubric, I see, oh, for me to get A, this is what I must do. We need to know, We need to know, so you give the rubric to the student. It's not a guessing game. Learning is not a guessing game. I don't know what is A, what is B. No, it must be very succinct, very clear, explicit. Explicit. A tool to aid consistency, transparency, and fairness in the marking process. Okay? For students, discuss, and it's a quick feedback on their performance and an indication of whether they need to work on to improve their performance. That's the rubric. You see the rubric, lecturer say well done, however, your conclusion doesn't have referencing. No reference to your conclusion. Example. So you know, next time when I do my conclusion, I need to be sure I put more references like that. So they know that's how they improve. Okay? So we have types of rubric, two types. There is the analytic and there is the holistic. Analytic rubric has several dimensions with performance indicators for level of achievement in each dimension. Analytical rubric would be like, what was your experience in Mirabelle restaurant? Ambience, music, food, service. Holistic rubric assess the whole task as one. Your experience in Mirabelle restaurant. Good, average, bad. See the difference? This one, holistic, looks at Mirabelle as one. This one, analytic, breaks it down into its different components. Which one is more effective for you? Analytic, because you want to know students' presentation, intro, dressing, sound, volume, and so on. So this is analytic. This one for us, not so, but for sometimes companies, they do survey, they do rubric, they may have. But ours is here. So, this is how analytic or holistic. This is an analytic. Final cooking lab grading rubric. Follow directions, safety, teamwork, sample, clean up, reflection. Okay? Advanced, proficient, basic, below basic. Good lah. Proficient means good, terampil, basic. So follow directions. I'm marking for, let's say, Alicia. Following directions, proficient. Knife safety, she just waved the knife below. Teamwork, she works well with friends, good. Sample, the product come out not bad. Clean up, oh, she's ultra clean. Reflection, okay, good. So this is this one, let's say, following directions here. These people, knife, not so bad. Teamwork, he likes to work alone. Basic. Student basically work together. One student, so let's say he is here. Sample, not so good. Clean up, lazy fella. Reflection here. Example. I see these two students, I can tell her, hey, you are okay, not bad, you do follow directions. Your knife skills was horrible. Your safety, you were walking, waving the knife. This prods you when I give feedback. You got 30 students, you cannot remember. So when you have this, it prods you. I will tell Mate over there, let's say here, finishing the service, you just walked away. You never clean your station. Your station is horrible. Alicia needed to clean for you. That's why Alicia got excellent. She went to clean for you. You walked away. So I gave you 0. Kitchen was left in a mess. Yeah. So dia tahu, I lost that mark because I walked away. Lain kali I won't do that. There must be that reflection that he won't do that. This is what the rubric does. Okay, so this one you mark already, jangan simpan macam emas, you must feedback to the student. Okay? Components of an assessment rubric must have criteria, must have standard, must have descriptors, and summative outcome. Okay, I show you. This one you need to go first. This one, when you blow up, you're not nice. We have criteria. Criteria A, criteria B, criteria C, D. Like if it's doing a presentation, introduction, body, conclusion, reference. This is called criteria. Standards, exceed expectation, expectation below expectation. Descriptors, if introduction exceed expectation, what does it mean? Students have demonstrated high knowledge, good referencing, and so on in words. This is called descriptors. And finally, we have summative outcome where you can write student managed to blah, 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 and so on. This is it. This is a traditional rubric. Next point I want to tell you. Standards, there are two schools to standard. Some will do 1, 2, 3. Some, like me, I choose a scale. I like to do 4 or even number. In my practice, every time when there is an in-between, you tend to follow it. Because if you don't think, average lah, everything is average, okay lah, average lah, this and that. If you have exceed expectation, then let's say very good, below average, or let's say below expectation, and then poor. So you really divide it. There is no in between. You will need to take sides. You will need to say whether the students is here or there. There is no rule to it, but this is just practice. Understand? Okay. So when you look into the rubric, you must have criteria. What is the criteria of your assessment? You must have the standard. What does it mean by exceed expectation, expectation, or below expectation? And this is a quadrant. This is a matrix, not matrix. If it is above, if it's criteria A, if it's above expectation, what is the explanation? Explanation or the description. So the description. Okay, then you go on. Some of you will even put marks. If it is here, it is 3, it is 2, it is 1. Ada, right? Mark so that you can hear lah. So some, then second part, body, EC. It could be 6, it could be 4, it could be 2, or even 0. Depends on how it is. Not everything needs to be the same because this one, the criteria too can be content. So it's different. So if you circle, then you will know where you stand. The final marks. Question on this? Okay. This is something which I want you to spread your word to your schools. Get them to practice, and not only practice, but have discussion. How do we get a good one for your school? Once you get a good one, guys, every year, every semester, you follow roughly the same, just adjust a bit. Senang kerja. Senang. Very senang. Very easy once you get a good one. Okay? Alright. Okay. Would you like a break or can I just continue with the final part? Can I? Okay. So we have gone through assessment. We have gone through the tool, which is the rubric, a critical tool. This one, practice it. Can use for many things. So now the general assessment part is covered. Next thing I will cover on the final part is what is happening today. It's called diversity. Okay, diversity in the classroom. In today's environment, now why am I putting diversity in part of this under assessment? Because in OBE outcomes based, at the end of the day, students have to achieve their goal. But when the class is so diverse can be things such as like orientation, beliefs, practices, these are called diversities. This is something very important also, especially under UOW. Okay, you know UOW has DEI, diversity, exclusivity, and inclusion. E is just one. I'm not part of the member. Okay, any of you online, do you all know DEI? What does E stand for? DEI is actually a committee over our organization here that actually practices fairness to all, because it's something from Australia. Australia is very much into it. It's a practice to say that students who are diverse, students who are different, must also be accepted. Okay, beliefs of their religion, their race, their culture, their nationality. Because Australia has challenges, aborigines and so on. No, so that is. So and it's also impacting us because we are also seeing a lot of difference in our classes, different students from different cultures, different races, different nationalities, and so on. So that is why there's a called diversity in the classroom. Because of this diversity, and our goal is the same. our goal, CRO, we have to achieve. OBE says that, but now the class is so much different. Not only difference in learning styles. Learning styles is different from diversity. Learning styles is our own learning styles. Now diversity is totally different itself. Okay? So concept of diversity encompasses acceptance and respect. It means understanding that each individual is unique and recognizing our individual differences. Religion, disability, orientation, culture, race, gender, and so on. So this is the general aspect on diversity. Okay? Now, when we talk about diversity, we respect individuals' rights, we acknowledge that categories are different and are not always fixed but can be fluid, and it includes knowing how to relate to these qualities and conditions that are different from our own and outside the group. How do we recognize these people? How do we also respect these challenges? Later, as I'm going to stress over that, diversity can also mean financial diversity. Some groups, some students are poorer, so we need to understand their challenges that they face also. Okay? So behavior and attitudes relate to diversity in the classroom. Why is it important? Is because sometimes general practice we have this prejudice or biasness. Prejudice or biasness sometimes can label individuals of a particular nation. Okay. Oh, you're from so and so country. Oh, that doesn't mean you guys stay all same on trees, or something like that. You know, opinions formed beforehand, a performed opinion, usually an unfavorable one, based on insufficient knowledge, irrational feelings, or inaccurate stereotypes. So this is basically called the prejudice. Okay. So in class, when we talk about this diversity, the prejudice can happen within. I'm not talking about lecturer and student. Within student, that is challenge. So when you see within student, that is where I want to tackle the main thing within students. People who are different also need to achieve the same goal. Under OBE, they need to achieve the same goal. All can achieve at different time, different ways. But how do we then ensure that, or how do we assist them in achieving those goals? Is critical outside. Okay, so on that context, other things of prejudice is like irrational dislike of somebody and unfounded hatred, fear, or mistrust. Okay, so we have seen in our class dimension certain students dipulaukan. That means they are islanded out. They are actually singled out. Okay, and these are the challenges that we as educators face in the class based on the different and the unique and diverse nature of them. Okay. So, managing diversity in the classroom, identify, I think it's important for us to identify our own attitudes towards diversity. Then we establish an environment of trust, get to know students in our very best, avoid stereotypes, use group work and cooperation, especially when we discuss pertaining between students. As I was telling them, one key aspect of this diversity is prejudice between students. Students don't like the student, or that one is from there, that one is from there, and so on and so on. That is where the challenge comes in. So how do we ensure they all work together? What are the methods? So things such as like try to put them to do group work, but it is monitored group work. You don't want to put okay, you see a challenge, you put them together, and eventually it festers into something worse. You need to monitor. You need to actively look into that making them work in the groups itself. Okay. So, and of course, our role as facilitators, we give equal time, we give equal effort to all to make sure that anyone who has any challenges and they feel the differences, the difficulties in getting things done, can have a sounding board. Okay. It's not easy. Seriously, it's not easy. Needs to emphasize because the way that the class dynamics has reached stage. There are two schools with some people will say, okay, don't need to worry about this. Let them adapt because society is cruel. Heard about that, right? Society is cruel. They need to adapt, they will be what we call the strawberry society. They easily lose. Correct, understand. But we mustn't create an environment in class that learning doesn't take place. Our concern is the learning part of learning. If learning doesn't take place because of these challenges between students, then it doesn't work for us. We are here to make sure that learning is. Okay? Teaching a class with big ability differences. Okay? Now, how do you teach the same concepts and skills to students with diverse abilities and interests? This is a challenge that we all do right now. We have in class, OBE, everybody is supposed to achieve, but we have different levels. Ultra pandai, not so pandai, and the opposite of ultra pandai. Okay? So we can do things such as like differentiation instruction. Okay? It's a method of instruction designed to meet the needs of all students by changing what students learn, how they accumulate information, how they demonstrate knowledge or skill, and with whom and where learning happens. In essence, adapting learning for learners of different ability within the classroom. In an optimum world, this is the way of adapting. It's called differentiation instruction. Every student, you differentiate the instruction, method, assessment, so that they achieve the same goal. In reality, you got no time to do that if you have 100 students. So you need to subconsciously divide the class. In say that we have certain groups which are faster, certain groups which are following, certain groups which are slower. By doing so, you will be able to, in a way, tackle the challenges of a particular group. So what we are doing is trying our very best to achieve our goals in the most effective, efficient manner. You go individual, you die. So you need to look at it as a class divided into 3. This is called differentiation instruction. Okay, so we give avenues for students to bring out or have problems to come and see you so that you'll be able to handle those problems. Okay, now over in practical class, what I used to do, I used to design group surveys. The students who are good, okay, guys, let's practice that in your own. The weak ones, okay, 3 of you come in, let me show you how to set the goals. Differentiation instruction, focus, the 3 of you in the practical environment. Okay, the others you just practice on your own. This one I focus until you know that's wrong, you continue doing it. Over in a more practical base, that's how it's do that. In the theoretical elements, it's the same. Okay, you can see some students are faster and slower. The slower ones, you give them more attention, you give them avenue to ask you, avenue to reflect on you as the source of information. Okay, that's how it is. As a key part of differentiation, one key thing about differentiation delivery, facilitators should establish their learners. There are these 3 things. Readiness to learn, learning interest, and learning ability. Okay? Now, this is the key part that we need to understand when we talk about you want to differentiate. Okay? Now, readiness to learn is this. Learning readiness refers to how well equipped a pupil is to learn, including circumstantial and environmental factors. Readiness issues at home. Students say come to class. You see when he's not motivated, he has low readiness, right? At home, always fighting. Parents always fighting. Parents going through a divorce, he's having a hard time. That is called readiness to learn. He is not ready. Mind not there. Not clever. Don't use the S word. Not clever. It's not ready. It happens a lot of students like that. Okay? So when you have low readiness to learn, medium and high, there are certain key things here which you can look into as you take your notes. So this is number 1. This is quite common. Students will talk about. 2. Ability. The academic capability of a student generally dictates the pace of which he or she can learn. This is what you call ability to learn. Ability is different from interest. Ability means mental ability to learn. Some students cakap 1 kali faham, some students cakap 10 kali boleh faham. Okay, that's ability. That's a fact. They all have minimum 3 credits to join a diploma, and they are all different abilities. Okay, and interest. House, no problem. Happy family. Intelligent student, very intelligent, but no interest. Okay, come in. Why I don't want to study for what? Why I don't want to do this? Forced to do this. Refers to the level of motivation a pupil possesses to learn. The motivation itself. So once you understand that there is these 3, the implications on these 3 over here, and then you see the basic theories on what is low, medium, and whatnot, it is important for you to be able to analyze your class. What is the reason for students' low motivation? What is the reason for students' condition? Is it because they are not ready? Is it because of their ability? Or is it because of their interests? Okay, now, having the 3 credits as a prerequisite is to overcome ability. What we're trying to say is diploma, you need 3 credits. That means if you have 3 credits, you have the ability, which we know is not true. Okay, which we know is not true, but generally it's like that. Okay, so is it because of the interest? Other than that, why would a student pay 100,000 to sit in the class and does not come for class or don't care? What is the rationale behind it? See, what is the rationale of a non-motivated student? What is the rationale? Oh, parents' force. Where does it fall? Readiness. At home, but you should all OBE. Because I have no interest. He may be a clever fellow. Okay? Or some students are maybe slow, no issue, very interested, but just slow. So you need to tackle it differently. Okay? So, class, when you talk about diversity in the classroom, not are we only looking at the diversity of, as what we said, cultures, races, genders, and whatnot. It is this that is also impacting. Because if there are those, there's a big percentage of those in your class that have shown the indifference to this, what's going to happen is it can create a chain reaction. People lemah, everybody lemah, then you see the class is going to be, class is going to lack motivation. Okay? Now, how do we overcome? There is no clear science to it. But if students reflect them, what are the challenges? Why we this? If they speak to you on issues at home, channel them to the counselor. If not, just to rationalize. This part, we are supposed to help ability. That is our role. Ability is our role. Readiness, at home punya pasal, we cannot say. Ability, they are slower, we give our support. That is what. In the context of assessment, OBE, that is what. Give them also. Understand this, guys? Okay. So, there are various methods. This is a revised differentiation method. 6 differentiation methods that you can practice to build, in a way, more motivation or more drive in the class. This is revised. I adjusted it based on my own aspects. So we have collaborative learning, digital resources, verbal support, and so on. What I'm trying to say here is, at the end of the day, when you look into flexible paced learning, these are all flexible paced learning. We move the ball to the student. Move the ball to the student means let them then decide what they want and the key aspects of success. Let them achieve success on their own. See, that is what we're trying to push. When we talk about this differentiation methods, diversity, we want to put them that your success is your responsibility. You go, I will facilitate. I facilitate your success. Help, but facilitation is not guaranteed. We help, but they need to then learn on their own. Like collaborative learning. Put different people in their group. You yourself would create an environment that the students who want to collaborate, want to work with different groups of people. So, by the end of the day, this comes down to the student, how the student wants to adapt to all of this. Okay, so many different aspects, like ongoing assessment, something that I use a lot. This is the Kahoot, correct answer. If it's less than 80%, I do review. Okay, so we ask feedback, formative feedback, Kahoot. If anything less than 80%, I'll review. If not, good, continue to go ahead. Okay, so at the end of the day, when you look into this differentiation in class differentiation, the uniqueness of how certain class dynamics are there. There's certain things that we can do, but what we can use is quite limited. It's quite limited in a sense. I want to be in a way expressive to say you do this, you do that, but I'm also concerned about what resources they have. Okay, you cannot do the one-to-one and so on. Okay, now we are known to have very good student support. Okay, we are known to be that. Our institution, that's our selling point. Student support is something which is seen as very good. It's what we do very well. Okay, so in that sense, what we have been practicing a lot on this differentiation, even the heads of school will go down and also handle with the students, handle those kind of issues itself. That is our selling point. But what we're trying to say is how far can we go on that? Can we do individual counseling all the time if our numbers start going bigger and goes? Currently the numbers are not going bigger. Okay, so maybe we can, but we also need to understand what is the scope we can go into giving support to students. Okay. So, key to successful learning, aligning assessment with learning outcome. So, when we see our students itself, the way that they learn, the way that they achieve, we give diversity and so on, it is also important that maybe we want to guide them on certain key methods of learning. So, this is one simple one, is using mnemonics. So, the learning outcomes are clear. The learning experiences, that's what we are doing. And then, of course, the assessment of the student. And for students to learn, we want to use tools to make it easy for them to learn. So one key tool that we use can be mnemonics, which is like the colors of rainbow again. R. You all know this, right? Okay. Michael Jackson kacau his brother in university. Merah, jingga, kuning, hijau, biru, indigo, ungu. The colors of the rainbow. How else do you remember the colors of the rainbow? You see? So this is mnemonics. So what I'm trying to say here is at the end of the day, we try our very best to use tools and to use methods for the students to learn, make it easier. So we know the classroom is diverse. Traditional sense don't work, we use different sense. If you need to sing into the student or come up with a song, that's the way for them to learn. Right? Because the classroom is so diverse and different. Okay? So the simplest I can use is this. I'm just using this as an example. Because this is something which, even when I was young, in secondary, primary school, how do we remember the colors of the rainbow like that? Lah? You know, we have to, no way you can remember. So you make mnemonics. You know, Michael Jackson kacau his brother in university. Now you never forget the colors of the rainbow. Michael Jackson kacau his brother in university, right? You never forget really. All of three of you will now remember forever. Just by this simple thing. Now, picture this. You're teaching marketing, you're teaching science, you're teaching biology, whatever. If you use simple tools like that, how will it help the student? Maybe not Michael Jackson, but something else. You see? Like, remember, I defined to you the definition of management. Management is the process of POLC, planning, organizing, controlling. When did I do this? I did this 30 years ago. How can I remember POLC org? I will never forget POLC. Okay, so it's still lingered here after 30 years. That is how our body works, our mind works. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is a recap. That is where I want to end. And at the end of the day, here is I want you all to be creative. That's what I put this here. Be creative. You need to sing, you sing. Yes, that's what it is. Okay. You need to sing, you sing. You need to dance, you dance. By the end of the day, the message goes through. You need to come up with something, you come up with something. I'm not saying make ourselves be clowns. No, we are not clowns. But we are innovative. We come up with methods for students to grasp the idea, the concepts. So at the end of the day, it's a bit of a recap on today's session. Today's session, what we have gone through will be on assessment and assessment planning. What is an assessment? What are the conditions that make an assessment valid? Okay. We also touch on the assessment rubric. An assessment rubric paper is a tool, and that tool is only valid as how well you design the tool. The tool can be crap if you design it badly. And then finally, we touch on, I dare not talk much about this because as I said, I am not a skilled counselor, nor do I have in-depth study on students' behavior. But I wanted to touch on this is because the classroom impacts the way we achieve our LO. And the classroom is so diverse. The challenges, some students are motivated, not motivated. Some students have different beliefs, practices, which are dipulaukan in a way, challenges that they face. So we need to understand this because we need to achieve a goal. Our goal as facilitators is, so this is the question. We want to achieve this. If we want to achieve this and we know our tools already. Last week we talked about OBE, we talked about OBE, we talked about this. So those are controllable. But this one, not controllable. In summary, I'm going to stress this. Controllable, you can do everything. OBE, your PEO, PLO, so you all can set in your group everything you can make nicely. But this one is not controllable. And this not controllable one has an impact. It's a big impact to you achieving your goal. So we need to also pay attention to diversity over here. That is why I didn't touch it. We need to take it into consideration. Okay. Any questions, guys?
Yeah, question regarding diversity, especially learning abilities. Because once in a while we get students on the spectrum of autism or Asperger's, because it's can you change the assessment just for them, right? As long as the assessment meets the learning outcome, but is it fair for the other students?
Good question. Question from Martin here is, if you have students who have some medical conditions, can we change the assessment yet same LO, achieving the same LO? You answered it. If you can change the assessment and justify that it meets the same LO, you can. However, this is where I put a caveat. It becomes very difficult for you to develop a new assessment with the same LO. So this needs to be done in proper manner with your panel. Your panel means your experts on that. This brings me to an exact situation that I actually visited the what medical center is it? The one in the Medexis Medical School in near Street Bataling. No, IMU, sorry, I offend. I went to see my teaching at DNL counterpart over there. I wanted to learn from them because they're good. IMU, very good, seriously. So I was asking him about how do you do the same question? Different. They said they are in the process of coming out with one, but they've been thinking of coming out with one for many years. Every time they come up with a tool and a method, there will be certain people who will argue against. You see, so I get where you're coming from. OBE says yes, you should do it, different assessment method, but same goal. The problem is how can we, in a way, justify that the levels are the same? There was the same argument again to me. Some students are good in writing, some students are good in presentation. So it is marketing, and we are not assessing writing skills. Why don't do a presentation? Certain students present. Okay, but that is where the argument comes in. Are we that proactive to reach that level? Monday I said, yes we are. If you guys are championing it, I believe you all should. If you have students in that, should. Whatever you all do, ready, then present it in the Senate. If the Senate accepts it, then it can be implemented. But it's going to be case by case. It's going to be case by case. There are schools of certain students who are not only one, if I'm not wrong.
It's pretty much one every semester.
One every semester. Yes. They meet the conditions. They got no issue. They meet the conditions, but because of their aspect, then there are certain things which is not easy. I really say not easy. I've thought about it before, come up with a plan, didn't work. Okay. How do you convert written exam to presentation, for example? Okay, it's not easy, but it can be done. It definitely can be done. LO is okay. Any other questions? And what about questions online? Any questions, guys? Our friends online?
So far, no, thank you.
All right. You guys can following? Can good. This is just we only went through two sessions. It is more of an intro, let you touch through, but we went a bit more in depth assessment. Whatever that you learn, whatever that you have attained, practice it, practice it. And if you want to check, I'm happy to sit down with you all to check and further develop these matters. Okay? Alright, so thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a very good weekend. Take care and aim for perfect outcome-based practice, which I find it is perfect, no, but as much as we can, we want an efficient and effective. Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Yeah, have a good weekend. See you. Bye. Oh, yeah.